There's Paul.
Good morning. Welcome to your February 19th, 2013, 9 a.m. County Commission meeting. If you wouldn't mind, we're going to stand for an invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Dear Father, we thank you for your guidance. In your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hope everyone's having a great week. Slider's ready. He's having an awesome week. I tell you, he's excited. He is stoked, ready for spring training.
Always.
I would look for a motion this morning relative to the minutes from both February 5th and the February 8th meetings. Is there a motion?
Move approval of both sets of minutes, sir.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried. With that, we're going to begin with proclamations this morning. I'm not sure, Paul, about this. You know, having Slider sit in the audience is a little too scary today, but you know what? We're excited about that. We're going to have a proclamation. We're going to begin with resolution number 13-028. It's for the New York Mets 25th anniversary and the spring training here in St. Lucie County. This morning we're going to have the reading of that, and then we have Paul Taglieri and Cassie with us this morning, along with Slider. So with that, Kelly, would you please read the resolution?
Yes, sir. Resolution number 13-028. A resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida, congratulating the New York Mets on the celebration of their 25th anniversary in St. Lucie County and welcoming them back to Tradition Field for spring training in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. Tradition Field is a baseball stadium located in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Tradition Field was built in time for the 1988 season, holds 7,160 people, and is the spring training home of the New York Mets. The New York Mets will open their 2013 spring training schedule on Saturday, February 23, 2013, and will celebrate their 25th anniversary in St. Lucie County. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida, this board does hereby congratulate the New York Mets on the celebration of their 25th anniversary in St. Lucie County. This board further welcomes the New York Mets back to St. Lucie County for spring training 2013. The county administrator is hereby directed to forward a copy of this resolution to the New York Mets organization in order to congratulate them on their 25th anniversary in St. Lucie County, Florida, and to welcome the New York Mets back to St. Lucie County for spring training 2013. Passed and duly adopted this 19th day of February 2013.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, move approval.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. With that, Mr. Paul, Cassie, and Slider. How are you doing? Thank you. Welcome. Welcome.
We're excited.
On a pitching rotation, you know what? There's always somebody causing trouble in every crowd. Sure enough, look at that. Slider's going through. I'm not sure what's going on. Do we need to call for the sheriff? Where's the sheriff? I tell you, where's the sheriff? Paul, the show's yours.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here, and we're real excited about beginning our 25th season here in St. Lucie County, and it's really nice to hear Tradition Field and see it back on top of the stadium. So I'd like to invite all the commissioners, Miss Outlaw, out to opening day. Out to opening day on Saturday.
I think we have a new chairman now.
Yeah, that's it. little better looking too.
Better hair.
Better hair. I can't comment on that. But anyway, we want to invite you all out to opening day on Saturday to throw out the first pitch to kick off spring training. Our game time is at 12 o'clock. And like I said, we're very happy to still be here 25 years, and we're looking forward to another 25 more. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, sir. All right, I'll be there.
Misty, thank you. Oh, it's good. Hey, Thank you very much.
Next time we see you, want to see a World Series ring on your fingers. Come on, Slider, you can bring it.
Slide it on your finger.
All right. That was fun. Next off, we have resolution number 13-030. This is for National Engineers Week in St. Lucie County. Madam Clerk, would you please read
Yes, sir.
the resolution?
Resolution number 13-030. A resolution proclaiming February 17, 2013 through February 23, 2013 as National Engineers Week in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. National Engineers Week was founded in 1951 by the National Society of Professional Engineers as an annual event to raise public awareness of engineers and their accomplishments. Thousands of engineers throughout the United States will sponsor a variety of public activities, from technology exhibits to student competitions during this week. Engineers have used their scientific and technical knowledge and skills in creative and innovative ways to fulfill society's needs. Engineers face the major technological challenges of our time, from rebuilding towns devastated by natural disasters to designing an information superhighway that will speed our country into this new century. Engineers are encouraging our young math and science students to realize the practical power of their knowledge. This board believes that we will look more than ever to engineers and their knowledge and skills to meet the challenges of the future. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida, that this board does hereby proclaim the week of February 17, 2013 through February 23, 2013 as National Engineers Week in St. Lucie County, Florida. Passed and duly adopted this 19th day of February 2013.
Is there a motion?
There's a motion.
Second?
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. With that, for Vernon, there he is. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
Great. I'm great. I have a little resolution here for you. You're not going to make us like build a road or build a bridge or do something this morning, are you?
No, we're not going to do anything like that.
No.
But I would like to thank all of you guys. I would like to thank all of you guys for recognizing the Engineers Week. What we do with the local chapter is we just had our math counts competition, which is a local competition, and it goes national. St. Lucie County's always had some tough competitors, and we appreciate the effort the parents make and the kids, as well as the commissioners and people like yourselves. So, thank you.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Next this morning, we're under item C. This is resolution 13-031, and it's for the St. Lucie County Fair Days. By the way, is Jeannie here? I didn't see her come in yet. Did Jeannie make it? Don't see Jeannie. With that, Madam Clerk, would you please read the resolution?
Resolution number 13-031. A resolution proclaiming February 22, 2013 through March 3, 2013 as St. Lucie County Fair Days in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. The St. Lucie County Fair Association was created in 1964 and is a nonprofit, community-based organization which promotes the agricultural, horticultural, industrial, and creative arts and sciences. The St. Lucie County Fair is the major event of the association, which provides quality family entertainment and livestock shows for the citizens of St. Lucie County. The St. Lucie County Fair also provides its citizens with the opportunity to show their talents, both individually and collectively, through the interesting exhibits that are displayed. Last year, through the efforts of the St. Lucie County Fair Association, more than 131,000 people, both young and old, experienced the fun, excitement, and education provided by the St. Lucie County Fair. This board believes that the St. Lucie County Fair Association should be recognized for their contributions to the public health, safety, and welfare of the families of St. Lucie County, Florida. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida, this board does hereby proclaim February 22, 2013 through March 3, 2013 as St. Lucie County Fair Days in St. Lucie County, Florida, passed and duly adopted this 19th day of February 2013.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. With that, I know we have one particular commissioner that's going to have fun Saturday.
As a matter of fact, I hope it's Commissioner Tom Perona having a lot more fun than I, because we are having a Kiss the Pig fundraiser. I see Sheriff Mascara is here, and he is fully participating in helping us, support Sean Baldwin. Sean Baldwin is leading the pack, and he's doing a great job. So feel free to go to the Round Table St. Lucie and click on the pig and vote for your favorite public figure. Again, myself or Sheriff Mascara and Chief Baldwin, whom we're all rooting for. Chief Boldak, Chief Parrish from the Fire District, Mike Lannon from the School District, and of course Tom Perona. So we hope that everybody will participate, and this is a fundraiser to help us raise money to keep Kids at Hope alive. Kids at Hope is a culture shift in our community where all children are capable of success, no exceptions. So we hope that everybody will help us and join and vote in online or in person, and whoever gets the most votes gets to kiss the pig, the award-winning pig. I understand that Commissioner Hutchinson's been very generous to support my campaign. However, I strongly urge you to support Chief Baldwin.
There's something about trying to pass a motion to see if we can actually make sure that it's you. I'm telling you. Do we get to put lipstick on this pig? That's all I wanted.
I hope it's Birdie.
Any other comments from the board on this item? I know I'm looking forward to the fair. I always do, and it's a lot of fun to be able to go out and be a part of that. The concerts, the venue, it's a wonderful event.
The Guess Who are playing.
The Guess Who are opening, that's right. So, perfect. With that, let's move on to resolution number 13-029, proclaiming February 21st as the Great American Smokeout Day. Madam Clerk, would you please read the resolution?
Resolution number 13-029, a resolution proclaiming February 19, 2013 as the Great American Smokeout Day in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. The U.S. Surgeon General has said that smoking remains the single most preventable cause of premature death in our society. Each year, smoking accounts for 438,000 premature deaths in the United States, and 38,000 non-smokers die as a result of exposure to secondhand smoke. Smoking and related illnesses also account for 20% of all sick days taken by employees nationwide. For 30 years, millions of smokers have participated in the American Cancer Society's Great American Smokeout, a day on which they give up cigarettes for 24 hours in the hope that they may quit permanently. A significant number of those who gave up cigarettes for the day were able to give up the habit entirely. This demonstration of success suggests that the Great American Smokeout has potential for improving the health of the citizens of St. Lucie County. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida, this board does hereby proclaim February 21st, 2013 as the Great American Smokeout Day in St. Lucie County, Florida, passed and duly adopted this 19th day of February, 2013.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
That was a little game this morning. That was good. Motion and a second.
She seconded
I didn't even hear it. That's good. Sorry, behind the scenes going on here. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. With that, is Marcella here? Is Christy here? Marcella, I don't see her. Christy. And I have to tell you, the students, we have our tobacco prevention program manager, Marcella Bianco. She has done an amazing job working with the students, and the students have been actively speaking in front of the commissioners with a lot of groups, and I've been really impressed with the job that they've done to try and work on cessation programs, and I know that they were really excited to be here. I'm not sure what happened to their appearance this morning, but boy, they've been dynamite. In fact, I was over at Treasure Coast High School to meet with several of them, and I was really surprised at the efforts that they've been able to produce, and they've done a wonderful job with that. With that, we will move on. We actually have our clerk here this morning, along with quite a few of his staff. This is an added item. This is a presentation by our illustrious clerk, Mr. Joe Smith. Good morning.
Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, how are you?
Excellent.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
Pleasure. Illustrious. I'm not very sure about that, but thank you very much for the compliment anyway. Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of County Commissioners, good morning.
Good morning.
I have goodies for you. Indeed, and it is my pleasure to present to you a few items. So I'll start big and I'll go slow. How's that? The first is the credit card revenue sharing program. And as you know, St. Lucie County and our clerk's office joined the Wells Fargo credit card program revenue sharing in April of 2011. At that time, the clerk's office was the first county in the state of Florida to participate in this type of program. This program enabled our finance department to generate additional general fund revenues. That makes Ms. Outlaw very happy, I believe, for the St. Lucie County Board of Commissioners. The program also has decreased our operating cost by utilizing a credit card payment option in addition to check and direct deposit. Once a year, Wells Fargo Bank provides a revenue share to the Board of County Commissioners at a rate between 1.15% and 1.45% of the total amount charged each calendar year. This program obviously not only creates an opportunity for additional revenue, it enhances customer satisfaction by providing accelerated cash flow to the vendors right here in our community. And it doesn't increase any of our staff costs. For the past 2 years, the clerk's office account payable department, of whom you see quite a few members behind me, they have reduced their operations by 43%. For 2010, there were 10,947 payments made, of which 83% were paid by check, 17% by direct deposit. For 2012, 10,579 payments were made, of which 46% were paid by checks, 20% by direct deposit, and 34% by credit card. This dramatic reduction in costs of operations has heavily rested on the procedural changes and automation in payment processing. So in 2011, our office generated $62,852, and I brought you a check that looked like this. $62,852 for 8 months of the program. For 2012, it is my great pleasure and honor to present to the Board of County Commissioners a check in the amount of $172,167.
That's worth it. Oh.
Beautiful. Mr. Chairman, would you like to, if you wouldn't mind, I have a few other items for you. So would you like to do the picture first and then I'll continue?
Why don't you continue, and they'll actually have the board come down.
All right. So we've come a long way, baby.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So $172,167 for the past 12 months, and I'm just very proud of the work that our office has completed on your behalf, as well as our ability to provide additional revenue for the citizens of St. Lucie County. That's the first thing. The second thing is the Certificate of Achievement in Excellence in Financial Reporting. You all have become quite familiar with this award. I'm pleased to let you know that for the 8th consecutive year, the St. Lucie County Clerk's Office and their professionals have received this award on your behalf due to our financial reporting efforts. We send our CAFR, our Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, of which you are all quite familiar, to an agency in Chicago. And they take a look at it, they review it, and they came back and said to us, another year, another great job for St. Lucie County. So there's this as well. And lastly, as you know, beginning in 2010, I do believe it was, our office said, you know, that CAFR is really complicated for a lot of people. Let's find a way to make it more understandable for the general public. And so we began to create our PAFR, which was the Popular Annual Financial Reporting, and we actually received the award for the 2nd consecutive year for that as well. These are all of your awards. I'm always pleased to work with you as the clerk of the circuit court, but I thought it was very important to make sure that you as the board of St. Lucie County understood what your clerk's office was doing on your behalf and also what we all were doing together to help advance our lives here in St. Lucie County. So with that, Mr. Chairman, whenever you are ready for pictures, we are ready.
Okay. Going down there. And Mr. Chairman, you're not allowed to spend that check, just saying.
Mr. Chairman, every year, now for the 2nd year, this is more than $235,000 for the Board of County Commissioners that were not obviously tax dollars. So I didn't know that the Finance Department was going to find ourselves into hanging out with utilities and solid waste, but here we are as a generating fund for the Board of County Commissioners. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes. Would you all please join us up here? Yeah. We need people to hold the stuff. Mr. Chairman, I just also wanted to introduce everyone may be looking at the team that just came up and said, man, his staff is getting larger. But it is not. The two gentlemen who are standing, one is Neil Kiker from Wells Fargo Bank, and the other is Dane Shelton of Wells Fargo Bank. They have been our partners through this process and have really helped you and helped me and obviously helped the community really well to come up with new solutions for finding resources for the community.
Good job.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman and board members.
With that, we're going to turn to the general public comment portion of the meeting. And before we do that, just wanted to make a request of the commissioners. I know I had a request for a couple of the items on this morning's consent agenda to have that pulled as a separate discussion. And in doing that, if that is the case, I didn't know if there were maybe another item that any other commissioner would like to do. So rather than waiting until after general public comment to have those items pulled, I thought maybe we could note that we will pull those, and that way we would allow those comments to be provided under that particular item rather than trying to work through things now during general public comment. That would be the items related to the first, second, and third amendments there to the collection service agreements, the commercial waste pro agreements.
Yeah, I was looking at B8.
Okay.
And along with B6 as well.
B6, you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. Anything else that anybody else notes that they would like to have pulled, just so that comments can be focused under those?
Mr. Chair, are you recommending for B7, 8, and 9, which all is being pulled for the separate discussion on the regular?
Okay. With that, we'll open up to general public comment. So if there's an item that is not related to one of those, feel free to provide comments at this time. Have Mr. Walker. Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. Respectfully, Chairman, Commission, staff, members of the audience, I know that there is a motion to remove 7, 8, and 9 from the consent agenda, but there is also one, as a point of clarification, respectfully request that item G3 also be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion. And 4.
It's related.
Just pull the whole damn thing.
Sorry, what was it?
It's related. Yeah, it's related. Mr. Chair, I have no problem with that.
Neither do I.
Perfect.
Thank you, Commission.
Anyone else wishing to address the board this morning? Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Adrienne Moore, and I'm here today representing the Zora Neale Hurston Florida Education Foundation. And in front of you at your table are the posters this year promoting Zora Fest. We have several events going on, and we invite you to come to any and all of the events. And I'll just name a few of the events that are listed on this poster. We have an annual rent party, which is at the History Museum. We have, this year, we're bringing back a show that we had about 4 years ago. It's called Loquacious and Bodacious. It's a one-woman show, and the character in the show is Zora, and the young lady is from West Palm Beach, from the Actors Repertoire, who performs it. And it tells a lot about Zora's life. Then the festival itself is March the 9th at Lincoln Park Academy. And this year we're having a lot of students from the schools who are in dance and music and drums and steppers and all kinds of programs. So that's going to be a great thing for us. The Friends of the Library will be giving out free books to the young people again, which they do every year. And we also will have Lucie Hurston, Zora's niece, on hand this year to give some talk about Zora's writings. This is the 75th anniversary year of Their Eyes Were Watching God, which is the main book that everybody reads, that Zora wrote in 7 weeks in 1937 in Haiti. So it's one of her most prominent books. And then we also have the Authors Brunch. Lucie Hurston will be the host, and we're bringing in a professor from Rollins College to talk about Zora's role at Rollins many, many, many years ago, which most people are not aware of. And I've also asked Marvin Hobson from Indian River State College to come and discuss the new endowed chair of Zora Neale Hurston at Indian River State College. And he's going to be doing a lot of student programs through that chair that's funded by the College Foundation. So we invite you to come and enjoy the fun, and there's always lots of vendors, and also I believe the Jazz Society will be on hand. So it's another good year for Zora Fest, for sure. So thank you very much, and we hope to see you there.
Great. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Adrian, if people wanted more information, where could they call?
They can call Linda Henderson. She's the chairman of the foundation, and her phone number is 971-1744. And she can answer that. Or they can check out zorafest.org. I have a listing of all of the programs on the website.
And you always do a great job, and thank you to you and the foundation for keeping Zora alive. And it should also be noted that St. Lucie County has a Zora Neale Hurston Trail, including her final burial ground here in the city of Fort Pierce. So
right, and so many people don't know about the Dust Tracks Trail, even though it's right up the street. I took a bus of people in September to Belglade because that's the backdrop of Their Eyes Were Watching God. And most of the people on the bus who lived in Fort Pierce a long time had never been on the Dust Tracks Trail, have never gone over to the house, Zora's house, to look at it, and so on. So we're going to start doing more of buses out to Belglade for this year, and then also pushing the Dust Tracks Trail. And we're already talking to the school district about taking school buses over there and making sure they take the school kids to all kinds of events out of the county. And we said, but you need to know about Zora, especially since so many of the classes in St. Lucie County are reading Zora books. So this gives them a better perspective of Zora. And we will also have 2 trips this year in July, again, from the Florida Humanities Council. These teachers are from around the country. Over the years, we've had people from as far away as Alaska come to this program. And you wonder, what they're doing, but they're teaching Zora in the schools in Alaska just as much as in St. Lucie County. So we usually get about 40 teachers in each bus, so about 80 teachers, and the Humanities Council sponsors the entire trip. It's a week at Rollins College, and they come here on the Friday so that they can see the house, the grave site, and some of the places that Zora worked when she was alive. So thank you very much.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Anyone else wishing to address the board this morning? Sorry, closed. Morning, Mr. Patterson.
Good morning. As all of you probably know, I'm the chairman of the Republican Party in St. Lucie County. But more importantly, I'm a taxpayer in St. Lucie County, and first I'd like to say that thank you, and I think that was the right decision to take the aforementioned items off the consent agenda. But while I'm here, I would also like to address the issue of the lawsuit filed against Gertrude Walker's office with True the Vote. Back a few months ago, as taxpayers were saddled with a huge financial burden to defend the supervisor of election. This looks like it's going to be a continuing practice here. If the sheriff's office or one of his deputies or one of the other constitutional officers committed what we believe to be a violation of the law, and a suit was filed, and in this case the National Voters Act was apparently violated, or at least that's what the allegation is, it would be the person's responsibility to take care of the financial burden. This is a law that I'm sure the Supervisor of Elections office knew about, or at least should have known about after being in office for more than 30 years. And I would suggest that the County Commission look long and hard before offering to take up that legal bill as well and add it to the burden of the taxpayers of the county. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Mr. McIntyre, would you just briefly respond as it relates to the funding aspect for?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, the supervisor was sued by a group. The suit is pending. The board is not directly funding the defense of the lawsuit. The supervisor, as the board is aware, and the public probably is as well, is an independently elected constitutional officer. There is coverage provided for lawsuits against public officials, including the board and the constitutional officers, other than the sheriff, who is not part of TRICO, which is a self-insurance consortium. Coverage is being provided through TRICO. The board does fund that, along with the City of Port St. Lucie, the City of Stewart, and Martin County.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Anyone else wishing to address the board this morning? Good morning.
Commissioners, my name is Gwen Morris, and I live in St. Lucie County. I just want to make sure that we keep the issue of economic development, jobs, before the board. And I'm particularly interested in the commissioners joining forces with the Fort Pierce commissioners to develop the Fort Pierce Port and the airport, and looking at maybe a 5, 10, and 20-year plan together. Fort Pierce does not have a lot of land area. There's lots of land area in western St. Lucie County, and I think it's a little ridiculous to just kind of go our own separate ways and not jointly develop a plan. I think that jobs are a crisis in St. Lucie County. I look at how the state average is lower than ours. It's always been that way. I feel that we've not gotten the best services that we should have gotten from our leaders in the past, and I encourage the current board to look to the future with vision for generational jobs for St. Lucie County. Now, if you want to think of Port St. Lucie as the research coast, fine, because there's something great to be said for STEM as well, but we also need blue-collar jobs in St. Lucie County. And I'm sure if you looked at the northern section of St. Lucie County, you will find the employment rate far above the 11.4% or 12% that is reported for St. Lucie County as a whole. I'm just really hoping that the two boards, we're all taxpayers. I pay taxes in St. Lucie County, Fort Pierce, all over. So when I see that the airport is owned by the city, by the county commissioners, I'm like, don't I have a share in that too? But really, I'm just wanting to encourage Fort Pierce City Commissioners and the county commissioners to jointly develop plans for economic development and not to pursue ownership of Fort Pierce Port and ownership of the airport. This is too small of an area to not jointly come together and develop a 5, 10, 20-year comprehensive economic development plan. Now, I would just like to encourage that. And for long and short-term jobs, look at some blue collar, because I was raised in Fort Pierce. My father, my grandparents, they all have been paying taxes into this system for, I'd say, at least a century. And I feel like certain parts of the county is just being left behind. I encourage you all to join forces and work together for all the people in St. Lucie County. Thank you very much.
If I may, Ms. Matthews, before you go. Ms. Morris, I'm sorry, Ms. Morris. One of the things, okay, I wanted to say is that towards that and encouragement, we do have a TPO on board.
TPO?
Yes.
What's that?
Transportation Planning Board. That board consists of commissioners from both the city of Fort Pierce, the city of Port St. Lucie, and county commissioners as well. So we're working behind the scenes. We're doing some things together, and we are moving forward together. So we're committed to camaraderie, and we're making that effort corporately to do what's best in the best interest of taxpayers in St. Lucie County.
Because we have the Port of Fort Pierce, we have the airport in Fort Pierce, and that's the area that's suffering most. And we just need a comprehensive plan, jointly devised, so that we can move forward. I just feel like certain parts of the city has been left behind, and I just hope that we can move forward with vision.
We will. Trust me, we will.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may add, as you know, you've been to several meetings. The Port Master Plan is underway, the rewriting, or I should say the update of the Port Master Plan, and there are a series of meetings that are going to be coming up in which the entire community, including St. Lucie, Port St. Lucie, Fort Pierce, the entire community is invited to participate in these meetings to help find what is going to be the future of the Port of Fort Pierce. And we did just about 3 years ago update the airport master plan, and that was a collective process as well, out of which came a series of several $1 million in upgrades at the airport, including an expansion, future expansion of the customs department, improvement of the runway and taxiways. And since that improvement has been done, we've seen over 33,000 new cycles on the airport runway, which has been a great benefit to St. Lucie County. And I expect to see additional investment in the very near future from airport activity. But I strongly urge you and other citizens of this community who care about what happens at the Port of Fort Pierce to participate in these publicly noticed meetings. You can go to the St. Lucie County website, and that list will be made available, and I hope that you'll join us.
Have they been scheduled?
I believe that's, excuse me,
March
that's unfolding.
23rd is the first one.
Okay.
It's a Saturday.
When?
March 23rd is the Saturday. That's the first one that's been scheduled. The timing, I'm trying to get confirmed. There's some conflicting on the time, but it's probably about 8:30 to 1, somewhere in that time frame.
Okay, and
if you give me your email address, I have your phone number.
Okay, I
can
will send it to you. Thank you very much, Commissioner. Also, Larry Pelton, I think is his name, Economic Development.
And he's actually here in the audience,
okay,
along with several members of his board.
Okay, I would really love for Mr. Pelton to take advantage of the TV channel that we have to kind of keep the community updated and what's going on in terms of economic development. It's a crisis to me. And I think about the seasonal workers, and I've spoken to some who do quite well if they're working in restaurants, and seldom do you see a diverse population working in restaurants. It's usually just one group. And I said, well, what do you do in the summertime? They go on unemployment. So we need some some economic development that's sustainable year-round and not seasonal, because we're burdening our social services when we don't.
And I know Mr. Pelton's been actively working with his board to try and make sure that they can provide for efforts as they work throughout the area. In fact, he could probably use some encouragement from you with the city of Fort Pierce, because I know at this point they're not actually providing any financial support at all to his organization, unlike the city of Port St. Lucie. So they actually aren't a part of the program, but I know Mr. Pelton, regardless of that, still tries to do all that he can for the city of Fort Pierce and for the county.
I'm sure, but I'm just
So
saying, let us know what's happening.
No doubt, no doubt. And I know
There's so
the
much
city of Port St.
discouragement.
Lucie has been equally interested, because they as well feel like they have a lot at stake with the airport and others. So I think a lot of efforts are going on there. So thank you very much this morning.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else wishing to address the board this morning?
Move along.
By the way, Mr. Pelton, good morning. Good to have you here as well with your board. Seeing no other movement, we will close the general public comment portion, and we will turn to the consent agenda. Are there any other items that are wishing to be pulled this morning?
Can we rerun the items that are being pulled?
Sure. I have B6, B7, B8, B9. Checking with Commissioner Johnson. That was B6, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then I have G3 and G4. Any other item that Commissioner wishes to have pulled this morning?
Move approval of the consent agenda, less those items.
Have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. With that, we will turn to item B6. This is the permission to file an amicus brief. Do you have a question? Is there a comment?
Somewhat of both question and comment. When I took a look at this, first of all, I did not know that inmates in St. Lucie County was paying for services or paying for their living conditions or living situation at the county jail. I began to kind of investigate a little bit, and I wanted to find out a little bit more information about it. But one of the things that kind of, I guess, was different for me or somewhat disturbing is that so many people hear word of mouth that, they're going to have to pay for their stay in jail. And my question was, did we actually send a memo out to the public stating that those who are arrested will have to pay for their stay in jail? And if not, I think it's something that the public needs to know, per the fact that hopefully we'll get their commitment to not do anything crazy and go to jail based upon the fact that they're going to have to pay their way for stay. So maybe Mr. McIntyre can answer that question for me.
Well, Commissioners, the reason the county is attempting to assess these costs, there are civil costs. There's a state statute that authorizes all counties to do this. I'm not sure how many are, but we are. And the reason for it, and I'll get to the question of publication, the reason for it is that we're trying to recover these costs on behalf of the taxpayers of St. Lucie County. It costs more than $50 a day to incarcerate individuals. And the law provides the county with an opportunity to recover a portion of those costs, and we are attempting to do so. What we are going to do is, at some point in the next couple of months, we're going to agenda an item for board discussion and review at an informal meeting to sort of we've been doing this for about 6 months. We're going to give you a snapshot of what we've done and the results that we've achieved, and let the board give further direction as to whether they want these efforts to continue. In terms of publication, a suggestion for the board to consider, perhaps we could add something to our criminal justice website that indicates the process that we're doing and explains it a little better perhaps than we have so far, and provides a phone number for more information if a contact person. That's one suggestion if the board is interested in publicizing it. We can do other things if the board's interested.
Commissioner Hutchinson.
Mr. Chair, Mr. McIntyre, it's also, this is left up to the discretion of the individual judges whether or not to include it. So I would be leery of putting a public notice out there that says you will pay when it's not really our decision. It's based on the judge to add it to their sentence.
Right.
Am I correct in stating that, Mr. McIntyre?
It does require judicial intervention. The statute, and this is one of the issues that we're going to be raising in this case, appears to me to be mandatory. In other words, it doesn't say may or whatever, it says shall. So in this particular case, which I realize is probably not the issue, but in this particular case, a judge did enter an order that assessed $50 a day pursuant to the statute for 202 days. This particular defendant was in jail for 202 days. The total amount was $10,100. Typically, the appeal would go to the Attorney General's office. However, the real party in interest in this case is the county.
Right.
So that's why we're suggesting that we intervene in the case, because we are the real party in interest, and we would recommend approval. Again, I have no problem if the board wants us to add some information to the website or to do anything else in terms of publishing more factual information about why we're doing what we're doing. Certainly that's appropriate if the board feels so that we need to do that.
Yeah, I feel the need for people to be informed in some capacity relative to that situation, so they'll know what they're going into and getting into. There's no excuses once that takes place. One of the things that we may consider as well, as a policy in St. Lucie County, we have all these young men in jail, and women as well, who are taking trades in jail. Why can't they get out? And if they do have a substantial bill, work towards community service hours to pay that bill off in that trade that they've taken in jail. We can actually utilize their services to save the county and other governmental areas a whole lot of money if they're participating and providing services for us. So just some things that I think about how to connect the dot and make sure that these young men are rehabbed properly, because they're taking a trade, but they're not utilizing it once they get out immediately, because in most cases they can't get a job immediately, because the first thing is going to be asked is about their background check. Well, if we have them doing public service hours based upon that trade and they show themselves worthy in that situation, then someone probably will be willing to take a chance on some of these young men and some of these young ladies. So these are some things that I think we need to at least inform them of, so they'll know what they're dealing with, just in case that judge decides that they want to get them to pay for services rendered.
I know the sheriff is actively working on a lot of programs. In fact, I see Mark Godwin standing in the back as well. But, I mean, at this point, you realize our costs are around $80 a day, total, everything included for what goes into that. Juveniles are actually closer to $200 a day, so it's fairly significant with that aspect. The jail is doing a lot to try and control the costs. I know Commissioner Zadofsky has been fairly concerned about the medical side, the fact that we're often spending $40,000+ a month on psychotropic and other drugs related to the inmate population. And we also have the 4 programs that have been developed through the jail to try and reduce the recidivism rate for those that would ever return back to jail, which the highest success program that we currently have is the culinary program. And so for those young men and women that are interested in that particular program, obviously they're down close to 7% of those that would ever return back to the jail population. I know that they've tried to do a lot with that. There are a lot of other areas, and I know that the Public Safety Committee has been actively working to try and look at your issue as well as other areas so that they can try and reduce costs, try and reduce the success for those that are coming out of the prison system and trying to work on their reintroduction back into their success for the community. So, any other comments on that item? With that, let's move on to...
real quick, let me make another comment. Mr. McIntyre, are we able to send out information to the public, letting them know the possibilities of pay for stay?
Yes, sir. We could do, as I suggested, we could put it on our website if the board wants to do a press release, or, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to publicize things. So I suggested the website, but there are other alternatives as well if the board desires to do that.
I would suggest we continue to work with the Public Safety Committee, realizing that at this point it's the Public Defender's Office, it's the prosecutor, it involves the sheriff, it involves everybody from bail bondsmen to you name it. It's a very successful committee, and they're always actively looking at these various issues, and maybe from that we can get the best avenue that they would suggest for moving this forward.
I'll be willing to take a look at that.
All right. Why don't we take an individual vote on this? Item B6, we have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion and second.
Second.
Motion second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item B7. With that, why don't we turn to Ron Roberts, who is our director.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can I ask, since we're pulling that off of the consent, if we could put that last on the regular agenda instead of going straight into this?
Okay.
Because I know there's going to be public comment or discussion coming into it. And to be fair, we've got other issues that will probably move very fast.
All right, let's move then items 7, 8, 9, as well as G, 3, and 4 to the end of the regular agenda. With that, we will turn to our regular agenda. Start off with item 8, under the Public Works Department. This is Engineering Division, guardrail replacements. With that, we have Mr. Mike Powley. We're moving fast on you.
Mr. Chairman, we need to do the public hearing first.
7.
Did I miss one?
Here's a 7A.
7A.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
That was a test, Mr. Powley.
I'm prepared, sir.
We're going to jump back to item 7. This is the Planning and Development Services. We'll start with Planning Division, ordinance number 13-007. We have a Land Development Code text amendment updating section 3.01.02S to allow bingo parlors as a permitted use in the commercial general zoning district. That we have Ms. Britton Wilson.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Britton Wilson, Senior Planner for the record, presenting item 7A, which is a text amendment to the Land Development Code petitioned by Rio Arcade to allow bingo parlors as a permitted use in the commercial general zoning district. This is the first of 2 required public hearings, and the final adoption hearing is scheduled for the evening of March 5th. This proposed text amendment is a public hearing, and notice was published in the St. Lucie News Tribune on February 6th, and staff has not received any comments from the public regarding this proposal. Bingo parlors are categorized by the United States Department of Labor under the Standard Industrial Code for amusements, recreational services, or SIC 79, which also includes, among many other things, billiard parlors, card rooms, bowling instruction, yoga instruction, bridge clubs, fortune tellers, gaming, and arcade parlors. This is an excerpt of Section 30103S of the Land Development Code that has been in place since before 1990, which speaks to the permitted and conditional uses within the commercial general zoning district. The numbers at the end of each use is the SIC code, and you can see at S2D, amusements and recreation services that are identified under SIC 79 are to be processed as permitted uses within the CG zoning district. That is all amusement and recreational services except stadiums, arenas, racetracks, amusement parks, and bingo parlors. And then these accepted uses of amusement parks, stadiums, arenas, and racetracks are then listed under Section 7 for conditional uses. As you can see here, bingo parlors are not listed, which results in bingo parlors not being a permitted or a conditional use in any zoning district. So the Land Development Code is currently lacking in clarification as to how bingo parlors are to be processed within the CG zoning district. So to clear up this discrepancy that currently exists, the text amendment proposes to just strike the term bingo parlors, which would result in bingo parlors becoming a permitted use in the CG zoning district under SIC 79. The analysis staff conducted indicates that the proposed text amendment is in compliance with the Land Development Code and helps clear up the current lack of clarification as to how to process bingo parlors, and it provides a clear process for small businesses wishing to open up a bingo parlor in St. Lucie County. The proposed text amendment is in effect just adding live bingo to the existing electronic bingo and arcade gaming that is already in place. And the high impacts associated with the conditional uses of stadiums, arenas, racetracks, and amusement parks do warrant the conditional use approval process. However, bingo parlors are associated with impacts that are significantly lower than an arena or an amusement park and are comparable more so to arcade gaming and billiard uses that are both permitted in a CG zoning district. And with that, staff is requesting that the adoption hearing for the proposed text amendment to the Land Development Code for Rio Arcade be scheduled for the evening of March 5th at 6 p.m. And that concludes my presentation, and staff and the applicant are available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Just as a point of clarification, I know that we had a discussion about it from a staff perspective. If a church is wanting to provide for an event, and they were going to have this, or maybe the Rotary Club was going to have this, we're not talking about having them going through the process to actually have this as a use provided. Do we not allow these types of things through some type of a special event permit?
Mr. Chairman, right now, currently, bingo parlors are not permitted in any zoning district.
Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Mark Satterley, Planning and Development Services. I think what we're dealing with here is a commercial use, and I don't think we get into regulating the periodic event that a church may have only if we see it as having being extraordinarily large, and then we do have this the temporary use permit, and we have that process available. But this is more to deal with a commercial use, as I understand it.
I just want to make sure that was clear, because I know there are periodic bingo events that come along where somebody's going to do it for a charity purpose or whatever the case, and it didn't appear as though it was clear. And with the fact that it's now going to be excluded, I didn't want to think that someone's going to have to go through the process realizing it appears to be an accessory to that particular function, or it may be, as you mentioned, a temporary use permit that's going to be provided.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it really depends upon, in that instance, it depends upon the scale. Sometimes if it's going to be outside and there's going to be, traffic impacts, then we have that process, that we coordinate through the departments. But this really deals with the commercial use.
So the commercial use, the fact that they already have the arcade, they're going to be then providing this as an additional use within the arcade, but it currently wasn't provided for under the language of the code.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other comments or questions for staff? This is a public hearing. At this point, we'll turn to the general public comment. If you'd like to provide your name and address for the record. Morning, Mr. Cooper.
Mr. Chairman, I certainly didn't come here to speak about this morning, but I did want to ask a question and sort of raise an issue that has come up with some research that I've done in the Land Development Code.
The name and address for the record.
Sorry. Dennis Corrick, the law firm Dean Mead, Minton & Zwaymer in Fort Pierce. The staff mentioned the standard industrial code. It's my understanding that the county code still refers to the 1987 standard industrial code. Is that the section, the group of codes that you're using?
Yes, sir.
It's just worth noting as you go forward that there is a more recent standard industrial code that some other codes are using, and I'm not suggesting that it's better or worse, but it is different, and some classifications are different. So as you go forward and you talk about this, I think it's worth noting that the county is still looking back to the 1987 standard industrial codes, because I have found that some things, if you move forward to the more recent one, you will find some inconsistencies between classifications, and it'll create problems for you. So as you're changing something based on the code, I think it's worth it for the county to raise the fact, to note that you're still using the 1987 code and you're not changing that.
Thank you, Mr. Corrick. Thank you. It'd be great if at some point we decided to fully eliminate the use of tying things to the SIC. I feel like that has not been the most beneficial method for us to deal with, with uses.
If you don't do that, then you have to add 1,000 pages of definitions to your code. So it's certainly a compromise one way or the other. You can disagree with it or not, but like I said, it's like a definition section that you don't have to design yourself from scratch. And it is at least it's a way. I've always said that the ultimate land development code is one that you can take to Peoria and sit down and decide whether or not you can do your project in St. Lucie County, without having to come and spend 6 months in a process determining whether you really can do it. And I think the standard industrial codes are at least a small step towards that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Satterley.
Good morning. Again, Mark Satterley, Planning and Development Services. Mr. Corrick raises an excellent point, and it's one that we dealt with very extensively when the board went through the 12003, our waivers, deferrals, and alternatives ordinance that was implemented last May, in dealing with the way our code handles uses, and is sort of a measure to address that. We do have the ability now, through analysis at the staff level and through the board, to work on uses that that don't fit into the 87 SIC code. And all of that stuff changes periodically, and in order to avoid having to continually update our land development code to keep pace with that, at least what we're doing now provides us the option to look at a lot of these things. This case, just because it was specifically prohibited in the way it was set up in the code, the way the bingo parlors were specifically excluded and then not included anywhere else, we felt like we really couldn't even use the waivers, deferrals, and alternatives option in this. But in many cases, that will work for us, and we've done it already have done it probably on 4 or 5 occasions where we've looked at uses where they weren't listed. We did the analysis. We found that they were consistent, and we were able to allow people to go places that in the past we would not have without having to amend the code.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley. This is a public hearing. Anyone else wishing to address the board this morning? Seeing no movement, we'll close the public hearing, return to the board.
This is only a first reading, sir, I think, right? And we come back a second time?
Correct.
Okay. So no action is required, right? Okay.
No action required. Just for the record, the second public hearing will be March 5th, 2013 at 6 p.m.
Any other comments from the board? That we will close this item, move on to the regular agenda. Public Works Engineering Division, this is North A1A guardrail replacement. Good morning, Mr. Powley.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. For the record, Mike Powley, County Engineer. I have a very brief presentation to make on this item. The Florida Department of Transportation has retained the services of Ranger Construction to complete improvements on North Island A1A. It's noteworthy to point out that unlike the majority of our county, which is relatively flat, on North Island there's substantial topographic relief. Part of the improvements include the replacement of 3,700 feet of guardrail, but the guardrail up there does 2 things. It of course, serves as a guardrail and protects cars or keeps the cars off the sidewalk, but the second thing it does is it keeps the sidewalk pedestrians on the sidewalk. At night, it is quite dark out there. FDOT has determined that there is substantial traffic after hours up there. The walkers choose to walk the sidewalks on morning and night, so they're concerned about removal of the guardrail, and the typical method of replacement would be to come back the next day and replace it. That would leave the guardrail not in place during the night hours, and they're concerned about the drop-offs that would exist to those pedestrians who would use the sidewalk at night outside normal work hours. They've requested that Ranger Construction complete the guardrail replacement around the clock. They want to work 24 hours a day, get that guardrail replaced. 3,700 lineal feet of guardrail is a fair amount, probably take a solid week at least. But in the completion of that work, they will violate our noise and vibration ordinance. The work that would be done outside hours would exceed the decibel and vibration levels. They therefore have requested a special permit so they can complete this work. We have done this a number of times in the past. The most recent one that I will point out to the county, to the board, is in the summer when Dickerson, Florida, placed asphalt, the final lift of asphalt on Kings Highway through Lakewood Park. That was done after hours so that the maintenance of traffic, the restrictions down to 1 lane on that portion of Kings Highway would be burdensome to the traveling public, and I thought it would be less burdensome to ask them to put up with some night work, and they placed the asphalt that night. It went, to my mind, very well. We had no complaints. So along that line, I'm requesting board support of a similar permit for Ranger Construction so that they can complete their work subject to the 4 conditions of approval that we have continuously carried with us in this effort. Approval shall be for 10 days only. All work outside of normal hours will be restricted to the A1A right-of-way. The contractor will make serious efforts to avoid the backup alarms, and that this permit can be revoked within 24 hours notice if we find out that there are violations. That said, that concludes my presentation. Staff requests board approval of agenda item number 8.
Any other comments or questions for staff? Seeing no comments or questions, is there a motion?
Move approval.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Turn to item 9, County Attorney. This is the third lease addendum with Orange Blossom Investment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you've indicated, this is the third lease addendum with Orange Blossom Investment. It's space for the Supervisor of Elections. In way of background, in January of 2003, the county did enter into a lease at the Orange Blossom Mall for use by the supervisor. The term of the lease was 10 years and expires on May the 31st, 2013. Attached to my memorandum is a copy of a proposed third lease addendum, which would extend the term of the lease 4 years through May 31st, 2017, but would provide the county with the right to terminate the lease after 2 years, May 31st, 2015, on 3 months prior written notice. The proposed rent is $7,615.48, which is the current rent with annual CPI increases. The landlord's representative confirmed in emails that the supervisor may use the space for early voting. The landlord also agreed to allow the supervisor to use the food court area in the event of a recount in the next 2 elections, that being 2014 and 2016. The landlord also will install a new storefront on Bay 67, which is part of the leasehold premises. Staff has discussed the proposed extension with the Supervisor of Elections, and the Supervisor has indicated to staff that she supports the proposed extension. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Any questions for staff at this time?
Just a comment. I actually want to thank Mr. McIntyre and all who have been a part of negotiating this, including the landlord management team and the supervisor. This gives security to that operation for the next several years, and I think it's important to our community to have stability there. So thank you for the work you've done. With that, I'll move to approve.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Before we turn, I see Ms. Gertrude as well as in the audience. Is there anything that you would like to provide this morning, Ms. Walker? Good morning.
Thank you, Commissioner Maury, for this opportunity and the board to speak to you in reference to the renewal of the lease. And it is the third addendum to the lease. I think this is the most cost-effective remedy for the situation for our relocation. I would like to see a relocation of the office at some point. I think that it's incumbent upon the commission to make a permanent decision on the location for the Supervisor of Elections office. And in the planning for the lease, we certainly kept in mind by ensuring that the board does have a 2-year option with a 3 months notice. So I would encourage the board to make plans, since this is the third addendum, and certainly it is, I think, high time that we look seriously at a permanent location owned by the county for this very important Supervisor of Elections office. Thank you so much for your assistance in making this happen. I'm very thankful to our attorney, Dan McIntyre, for working with the mall management, and I certainly appreciate the mall management agreeing to not increase the rent for the next 4-year lease. Thank you again for your assistance.
Great. Question as it relates to the food court area. If there is a recount, if something has to take place where we need additional space, are we clear as to the definitions for the limits of that area? I know before you actually needed the additional bay, as if that was, within the mall, that would have been a tenant space, as well as there was the actual walking areas. Are we talking about a bay, or are we actually talking just about the general existing walking areas that are within the mall? And then how does that play out? Because I know making sure that we could contain and control an area that was free from hands and bodies and people walking in and through an area was very important with the last election.
Right. I believe the supervisor and the mall management went out and walked the area, so I believe there is an agreement as to the location of that. It's only in the event of a recount, we would be required to pay the actual cost of any security or any other costs there, so there's no issue there. But I believe Ms. Walker can confirm this, but they did actually walk the site, and they do have an agreement on location.
You feel comfortable as well with that?
Yes. In my meetings with the mall management, we did look at that food court area. They do have a plan to enclose that area, to certainly have a door and an entrance, a controlled entrance to the area. It will be a wide open area and certainly can be secured. It is, I believe, a much larger area than we were able to use in the recount for the general election. And based on the plans that they have for lowering the ceiling and actually making it into an area that can be used for meetings and conferences, I think it will serve the purpose extremely well. One of the things that I was very concerned about was renewing the lease and not having an option. We have been at the mercy of the owners of the mall whenever a recount took place. And of course, they've been extremely amenable to us in those emergencies, but it is outlined in the new lease, and it gives me a little confidence in knowing that we won't have those kinds of emergencies, and I believe the space will serve us extremely well. One of the things that took place in the last election was the limited space in the tabulating room and the room where the canvassing board does meet, as well as the public meets at the advent of that recount. And the cramped conditions in that room that did not allow us the space to actually do the necessary recount once we discovered the catastrophic failure of the voting component of the voting equipment, the memory cards. And I'd like to allude right now, if I might, if you'll give me the time, I've heard from the voting equipment manufacturer that they have made a commitment to manufacture additional memory cards, and I will be coming to the board with that as soon as I get confirmation from the company that they do plan to do that. I believe it's so very important that we remedy the situation that did take place with the failure of the equipment, and I will be coming back to the board with that. I wanted to bring that to your attention as well as the public, because it is a concern that we do have a system that is reliable and that the voters can have confidence in, as well as you and I. Thank you so much for your assistance.
In terms of hours of operation, is there also anything that needs to be added that helps to make sure that we wouldn't have time limitations as we did with the most recent recount, where we hit the magic hour of 10 o'clock and we were asked to vacate the building? It's something that needs to be provided, Mr. McIntyre, or you?
Mr. Chairman, the way it's written, there are no time limitations. I think we have the right to use it on an as-needed basis, and
that needs to be really clear as it relates to that, because I know that became a major snafu as it related to this last election, where all of a sudden mall management asked for Ms. Walker to cease and desist all operations within that area, not her office, but within the area that they had provided. And
right, and I think that was one of the reasons that Ms. Walker and the county wanted to try to clarify that. So I think there are no limitations. The way I read this is she gets to use it on an as-needed basis, and there are no limitations, and that's the way I read this. We can certainly clarify that.
Yeah, I'd really want it to be clarified, because it was one that I know that Ms. Walker had an attorney, and there were other people that were calling. Heather, our attorney, actually had made contacts, and I know that they were unable to secure additional time. Now, I'm being told a couple of different things back and forth that maybe, you know, the right person wasn't spoken to or whatever the case, but I'm not sure. I just don't want to have an argument going on the actual election retabulation night dealing with this issue.
Okay, I mean, we could add, have the right to use the area known as the food care with no time limitations. Add that language in there if you're comfortable doing that.
For the sake of the election process, we need to do something to make sure that that's adequately provided for.
Mr. Chairman, I think we also need to move forward with this current agreement and then have that as an addendum. That way we have an agreement in hand today, and then that can be approved at a future meeting.
That's another way to handle it. Yes, sir. We have the certainty of having a deal here. Again, I can try to clarify that by letter or email with the mall management. I wasn't involved in the actual meeting, the site visit, but I know we talked about utilizing the area. So what I would like to do is perhaps take the advice of Commissioner Zadowski, have the board approve this, and then I'll try to clarify that in some way, either through an amendment or a letter, to make sure that there's no issue there.
Mr. Chairman, my reason for it is simply that I want to give confidence to the landlord that we are moving in a appropriate manner, and to give them comfort that we are keeping our word to their agreement.
And I don't know that we need to have this come back. I would assume that we're approving it, and pending the fact that this is going to be, I would assume, a simple arrangement to be able to work out with the landowner, and as a result that this would just be something that will be added to that particular portion of that contract. So. With that, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
With that, we're going to turn to item 10, Public Works Department. This is the use of Harbor Point staging area by the City of Fort Pierce. Good morning, Mr. West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. For the record, Don West, Public Works Director. This agenda item requests board approval for the City of Fort Pierce to use the county's Harbor Point property at the port as a temporary staging area for construction related to the city marina project. I have a map that shows the general area of Harbor Point. The county owns the property at the very northeast corner of the port operations area. It's a 20-acre site that we commonly call Harbor Point. This is the area that we're talking about. The letter attached to your agenda packets is from the city engineer, Mr. Jack Andrews, and the letter explains the reason for the city's request, and it also provides assurances to the county that the city will be willing to restore the property to its original condition after its use. The city's marina project that's currently under construction requires some mitigation work, and it's mitigation that's required to improve some of the existing seagrass beds out in the Indian River Lagoon in the vicinity of North Causeway. I have another map that shows the general area we're talking about. This is the North Causeway area with the bridge, and there's a little red box right here on the map that shows the general area for the mitigation work. There's an existing seagrass bed there that's going to require some filling in of some deep holes in that area to bring the sand bottom up to the level where seagrasses can flourish and grow. And that's part of the mitigation work. So the city actually needs to load some sand material onto barges. This will be some...
just for orientation's sake, you may want to just reference where the main line is there up in the top left, as well as you have the little Jim Bridge.
Yes.
And this is not north. You're looking up west on the top of your map here.
Yes, exactly. The little Jim Bridge area is over to the far right over here, and then this is the main causeway itself, where the boat ramp area is on the north side, and then the mitigation is on the south side. The project involves the loading of sand. There's going to be some sand brought out to the Harbor Point site that will actually be coming from a shoreside source, from a sand mine. The sand has to meet certain criteria, and that will be loaded onto a barge, which it then would be deployed over to the mitigation area. And the county has a permit to use the Harbor Point site for this type of use, so it's convenient for the city and the county to both make use of this property at Harbor Point. The county has also awarded a contract for a similar project that we're in the process of implementing. We have a beach mitigation project that we are going to also need to use the Harbor Point site as a staging area. So there will have to be some coordination that takes place. The county project is actually going to occupy the Harbor Point site starting in mid-March, and that will go through July of this year. We have already promised the use of the site to our county contractor. However, we believe that if the two staffs can work together, the city engineering staff as well as the county, we can coordinate this effort and accommodate both projects. We have plenty of space out on the Harbor Point site to store materials. We just have to coordinate the activities on where those would be placed, and also the loading area for where the barges come in, that type of thing. We need to make sure we coordinate those activities. So we've been working with county and city staff to get together on that and coordinate that. And what we're looking for today, we're asking the board to approve the concept that would allow us to move forward with use of the Harbor Point property by the city, with the understanding that the two staffs would coordinate those activities. I have in the audience today, I have Mr. Ed Seisinger. He's the city's project manager for the Marina project. And he has with him Mr. Brian Proctor, who's with Tetra Tech. And Tetra Tech is the mitigation consultant for the city. And so they'll be working with us to coordinate the activities to make sure the two contractors can work together. With that, Mr. Chairman, we're looking really for just a conceptual approval from the board. If there's any questions from the board, we'd be available. And also, Mr. Seisinger would be available to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. West. Any questions, comments for staff? That is their recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I think we heard from the public that they'd like to see us work together, and I think that this is one area that we can certainly do that. And I have great faith in Mr. West and the members of the Fort Pierce group that they can work together and get this thing done. I think it's a good thing. With that, I'll move approval.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
There's a second.
Motion is second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. West. That would turn to the county attorney. We're going to deal with item 11. This is a settlement agreement with APA Emerson and Indrio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you've indicated, this is a settlement agreement with APA Emerson at Indrio LLC. I'll refer them to as APA Emerson. They have submitted a proposed settlement agreement for board consideration. They do own a parcel of property in the northwest quadrant of the intersection of Indrio Road and Emerson Boulevard in St. Lucie County. The subject property is within the area designated as TVC on the comprehensive plan, and it's subject to the TVC land development regulations that were adopted by the board in 2006, which were amended in 2011. We've had a history of disputes with APA Emerson. They've instituted a number of legal challenges to the comprehensive plan amendments, to the land development regulations, some of which have been resolved by the county, by the law judge and the courts in the county's favor. There are remaining claims. There are 3 separate Burt Harris claims. There are consistency challenges, 3 consistency challenges. So the parties have been meeting for some time. This is obviously taking place over a series of years. They have developed a conceptual site plan in consultation with county staff, a copy of which is attached to the memorandum. The conceptual site plan will require the board to consider design alternatives authorized by the TVC. The board is authorized by the TVC land development regulations to consider design alternatives based on consistency with the goals, objectives, and policies of the TVC element in the plan. The conceptual site plan also includes elements that exceed the standard requirements of the TVC land development code. In terms of the settlement agreement, Mr. Chairman and board members, the settlement agreement does require that AP Emerson submit an application for development approval within 270 days from approval of the settlement agreement. The agreement provides that while the conceptual site plan is approved in concept, the application will be subject to all applicable standards of the comprehensive plan and the land development code. The finding will not be deemed to prejudge the application for development approval, and the agreement is not intended to bind the county in the exercise of governmental discretion. County planning staff and actually Ms. Kara Wood, who is working with the county even after her employment has terminated, have reviewed the conceptual site plan and determined that the site plan is generally consistent with the comp plan and the land development code. We have added language to the effect that upon dismissal, each party will bear its own attorney's fees and costs. That language has been added for clarification purposes. Recommendation, staff recommends that the board approve the settlement agreement with the suggested language changes and authorize the chairman to sign the agreement. As I've indicated, Mr. Chairman, Ms. Wood is in the audience if the board has any specific questions about the site plan.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. And just sort of a note on that, we didn't terminate her employment. she moved on to pursue a family business that has been going on for years. So I wanted to make sure that didn't seem like we terminated you, but yet we're still expecting you to be a portion of this very important project. So thank you. Any questions or comments for staff?
Just like to say, Mr. Chair, I want to thank Carol Wood for her tireless efforts in making this work for Adler's, and I want to thank them for their commitment and cooperation with staff on that. This project was very challenging, but you took the challenge head on along with Mark, and we just want to thank you for getting us to this point where we can move from that point forward.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add my thanks to the applicant and our staff for an incredible effort. As importantly, we're maintaining the goals and objectives of the TVC, an award-winning planning tool that St. Lucie County is proud of. And I will be very proud of the applicant to have a showpiece in this area of the county. And I look forward to seeing the next site plan and improvement to the area.
Great. Is there a motion?
There's a motion.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. That will remain with the county attorney. This is on county Medicaid billing. This is House Bill 5301, proposed mediation settlement agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wanted to bring this item to the board's attention. This is county Medicaid billing, House Bill 5301. In way of background, this is something that the board has previously considered. Back in August of 2012, the board voted 5-0 to support staff recommendation to challenge the initial determination by the Agency for Healthcare Administration. That vote was significant in the sense that only 4 of the 67 counties, Bay, Broward, St. Johns, and St. Lucie, decided to file a petition challenging the backlog. And that's important to note as well because there was a significant risk, which is perhaps the reason why the other counties didn't challenge, is that there was a 15% discount offered to counties. So the risk was that the board would perhaps have a higher number than it could have otherwise had. But the board, obviously this is something, as we get into it, we'll see the wisdom of the board's decision. The board took charge and decided that this wasn't right and determined to challenge this. Also, a significant part of this, before we get into the meat of it, because I want to do this regardless of whether the board votes yes or no on this, is I want to acknowledge the staff of the county. And I'd actually like Ms. Ryder at some point before the board votes to come up and identify the staff members for the record who were involved. I think it's significant. They are really the folks that were responsible, I think, in large part for the county being able to achieve at least this settlement offer. Our records were really good, really good. And not only were they really good, we spent hours making them better, going back and looking at that. And I think that was impressive to the state. I know it was, because their records were in a settlements that were not so good. So I think that's important, and if the board will allow, when I finish, if you could allow Ms. Ryder to come up and perhaps introduce these folks, I think they deserve some special attention. In terms of the the lawsuit and the litigation, we were part of a Florida Association of Counties lawsuit. There were 57 counties involved. We challenged a lot of things. We didn't like the legislation in terms of payback time. We thought that was unfair. In terms of the numbers, and this is important from a significant standpoint, the backlog amount initially was $16.6 million as of March of 2012, a year ago. It did get reduced, and we were certainly thankful for that, to $11.8 million as of August 1st, and that was actually the certified amount. So that was the amount where we were going to pay. The discounted amount with the $1.7 million discount was $10,062,000. So that was the amount that the board had the option to take, and as I've indicated, the board, to its credit, decided that that was not enough. Based on our records, we thought that was not enough of a discount. In recognition of that, the attorney for ACA did submit a final offer, which was determined final by them of $7.6 million. Again, to the board's credit, the board voted 5-0 to reject that offer, but did make a counteroffer. Even though ACA said that was their final offer, we submitted an offer of $4.9 million because we believed that it was important for governments to resolve those disputes. ACA changed its position and agreed to mediate on February the 11th in Tallahassee. Ms. Ryder, Ms. Scott, and myself represented the county. We were able to reach a mediated settlement agreement subject to board approval. A copy of that settlement agreement is attached. I'll summarize it. The amount now is $5,355,000. Again, that's $6 million lower than the amount certified by ACA on August 1st. It's also almost $4.8 million lower than the discounted amount. So by basically challenging this, the board has the opportunity to save the taxpayers $4 million, almost $5 million more than the discounted amount, and $6 million lower than the certified amount. The actions would include the backlog case, which is the subject of the mediation. There's a circuit court case, which I referenced, and 2 back-end refund. We are continuing to challenge on a monthly basis the amounts. They included those. That's about $15,000. We agreed for purposes of mediation that we would settle that as well. In terms of, and I apologize for the length, but it's an important case, and it's worth a lot of money, so it's important, I think, to go through that. I try to look at these from a best case, worst case scenario. In a worst case scenario, we would lose on all the issues. The administrative law judge would indicate that we would have to pay the certified amount, which is about $11.8 million. In the best case scenario, the judge would rule in favor on all the other issues, so we'd pay about $2.6 million. The advantage of settling a dispute is the certainty that the settlement brings. If we determine to accept this offer, we will have achieved a savings of approximately $6.5 million, as I've indicated, and $4.7 million over the amount originally offered by ACA with the 15% discount. This case is going to be a difficult case to present, but if the board chooses to reject the settlement offer, we're obviously willing to proceed that. But based on these reasons that I've set out, staff recommends that the board accept the settlement agreement, which would reduce the amount of the backlog from $11.8 million to $5.3 million, less all the amounts withheld by the Department of Revenue. They've withheld about $581,000 as of January, so that would come off of this amount. So the actual amount is less than $5 million. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre, and appreciate your efforts as well as Beth Ryder's team. The team efforts, I was really blown away when I began to hear the story from the state and the lack of their records versus what we were able to provide. Phenomenal job. Phenomenal job. Good morning, Ms. Ryder.
Thank you. Good morning. For the record, Beth Ryder, Community Services Director, and it's with great pleasure that I have this opportunity to introduce to you the staff from Community Services that has worked this has been over a year working on this. Well, Community Services has been working on it for the 18 years I've been here, but in this position. But I'd like to introduce, where are they? I thought they were here.
Walked up and left you standing.
Stephanie Myers, who is our Resident Support Services, the new name, manager. Renee Scott, who is a coordinator with social services and who's been the #1 point person on it, and Suzanne Antonetti, who is our budget person, our numbers person. And they have worked so with such care and with no complaining and hours and hours. And when the attorney up in Tallahassee asked us for another whole spreadsheet, there was 48,000 records, and Stephanie came up with, I never even heard of it, what'd you call it?
Pivot table.
Pivot table for them, so that when we were going to go before the judge, we could click on this pivot table and say why we took this one person off. It's just been unbelievable. And I have Miss Avila to thank also, and Marie Gowan and Jennifer Hill in the budget office. They were always there when we needed a number. And Dan McIntyre is not taking the credit he deserves. He was tenacious in our mediation hearing. You know, he's always so low key, but when it came to, okay, it's time to fish or cut bait, he was there. And I just was really proud of the whole group, and I'm talking too much, I'm sorry. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to recognize the people who deserve the most credit in this. And we're really, I hope you'll vote yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your efforts. We were really, really appreciative of what you did on this area. I know it was challenging when I first saw the number, and I thought, there is no way we're going to get stuck paying for $11.8 million on this item. And I was really frustrated, I know, at the time, and I remember Dan looking at me like, you're getting passionate about this. But then I saw the passion for your staff and what they had put into the efforts, and I said, we actually have a solid chance at beating and fighting and getting this number reduced. And when all the other counties gave in, I thought, no way, we have to find a way. And I was really thrilled when I saw what we were able to do. So thank you all.
Thank you.
For your efforts.
Didn't even look back. We were standing for you. $6.5 million worth of standing ovation.
That's right.
A motion that we move to approve.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second was a comment I would like to make. As Ms. Ryder indicated, this has been a long-standing issue. The information or lack of same in the Medicaid billings have been a problem for, well, the 18 years she's been aware of it. I dare say longer than that. Certainly for the 16 I've been on board. And while I will admit that it's still a little bit of a problem, accepting the fact that this is an unfunded mandate, which is constitutionally wrong, and the statute of limitations is 4 years, but they went back 10 years. So while I will admit it bugs me a little bit to have to move forward with this, I think the figure we have come up with, and the fact that there have been, because it was a statewide issue, and because our staff were so tenacious in their efforts, there have been some real improvements made in the process overall. I know we now have access to some state data that was not previously made available to us, so we have a better shot of making sure that our information and or theirs are somewhat, at least somewhat correct. This whole issue, I know, working through Florida Association of Counties, you know, the anecdotal information, you know, they go to check an address and find out it's a gas station. So it was obviously a somewhat transient person. Now, whether these folks were, you know, unfortunately homeless or whatever the circumstance might have been, this is a long-standing issue. Who owes these bills is, to my mind, still open to somewhat question, but I'm just really pleased with what our staff has been able to do with what they've finally managed to land on us. So once again, as we always said, thank you so very much, and I will support this motion.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, just a comment, and this is not to take the shining moment off of our staff and what they've accomplished on our behalf of the taxpayers, but I would hope we'd, at least for the legislative issues that are going before at Tallahassee, that we will at least ask some of our delegation to address this issue of the 4-year thing, because I think to leave that hanging out there is just setting, if not St. Lucie County, but other counties out in the open. So I do hope we can make that one of our priorities, that the legislators address that.
Mr. Chairman, along those lines, Mr. McIntyre, this agreement basically gives us a new start date with any record keeping any issues with ACA and the state. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir, it does. It would take it through the first 2 months plus the backlog, but not to throw this in front of ACA's face, but we're going to be challenging the third month as well. So it puts behind us the dollar amounts that are significant, but we're still not agreeing with all of their position. There is legislation that would eliminate this type of I don't know whether it's going to go anywhere, but I think both ACA and the counties agree that something needs to change, that this is not a good situation either for the backlog or going forward. It forces the counties to challenge this on a monthly basis, so it's just time consuming. It's just not an effective way, and I think everybody recognizes that, and there are efforts to eliminate this process going forward. So they'll just be, the state will pay it, but there'll be a revenue source that they're looking to get, and that's where, from a county perspective, we need to keep our eyes open on that and make sure it's fair and reasonable. But the good news, if that goes forward, is there won't be this administrative process, which is really not a good thing.
Mr. Chairman, to follow up, and actually to echo my colleagues, is that it was a fabulous job, and thank you to the community services, and of course, Ms. Outlaw, where would they be without you? Your support, seeing us go after an $11 million fight, surely made you be a little concerned, but we appreciate your support, and of course, Dan and your office support. Again, we'd like it to be a lot lower, but I think based on what we've been able to accomplish, we've been very successful for the taxpayers of St. Lucie County.
We have a motion, second. Any other discussion?
I just want to add to that. I'd be remiss not to say thank you to staff. Beth Ryder, great job with your staff, along with Mr. Dan McIntyre, who I feel led the charge, along with our county administrator, Ms. Faye Outlaw. Great job, great team, great effort, and that's what we call working together. Thank you.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. With that, if you all would like, we can actually recess this meeting, whip through the districts, and then we can finalize the meeting. Does that sound appropriate? Commissioners?
Yeah, we just got to go fast.
Let's do that. Let's recess this meeting, quickly run through these, that way we can move the rest of the staff out, and we'll move on with that. First item, we have Mosquito Control District. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from January 15th? Have a motion. Is there a second?
There's a second.
Motion second. Any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. We'll open general public comment. Anyone wishing to address the Mosquito Control District at this time? Seeing no movement, we'll close general public comment. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move approval.
Have a motion. Second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're
We'll come
adjourned.
together as St. Lucie County Erosion District. First on the agenda is the approval of minutes from January 15th. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to address the Erosion District? Seeing no one, we'll move to today's consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. And just one mention that I do have to have. I was recently, last week, in attendance at the National Erosion issue, and there is convention, and there is a workshop that I'm requesting of this board in order for the board to be brought up to date on an impending issue that's coming very quickly. We will not be doing the workshop ourselves. This is at the request of DEP with the state of Florida. So I've asked that if you could at least coordinate with Ms. Outlaw's office on some times that you would be available, and it is being requested that we do it in the evenings so that the public can also be made aware. So if you can just send some alternate dates for the month of March. Tara, that would be helpful. If there's no further comment, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
We'll call to order the Sustainability District. First item of business is the minutes of the December 18th meeting.
Motion to approve the December 18 minutes.
We have a motion. Is there a
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next item is general public comment. Anyone wishing to address the Sustainability District? Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. I just want to state that recently the Solar and Energy Loan Fund had a what we'll call a soft opening at their facility over on Quincy regarding and educating the commercial businesses and or contractors about our PACE provision here at St. Lucie County, and it was well attended. And PACE, for those of you are not familiar, is the voluntary property assessed clean energy program that is being provided by the county and working with the Solar and Energy Loan Fund to make that happen, to help businesses be able to achieve low-interest loans to better achieve energy efficiencies and help their businesses grow. That said, if there are any other comments from the board, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Come to order is the Environmental Control Board. First item on the agenda would be approval of the minutes from December 18th, 2012 meeting. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. That motion passes. Next item would be general public comment. Is there anyone present that wishes to address the Environmental Control Board? Seeing no one, we'll come back to the board. Is there a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Okay. Come back to order as the Board of County Commissioners. With that, we will return to the consent agenda items that were pulled. We'll begin with item B7. Begin with Mr. Ron Roberts. He's making his way up. Looks as though we would be able to actually work through these as a group. Good morning, Mr. Roberts.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Ron Roberts, Solid Waste Division Director. Mr. Chairman, did you say do them as a group or individually?
Why don't you do, I know at least 7, 8, and 9 as a group. I haven't looked to see on G. Maybe we can do G3 and 4 separate on this, but let's at least, in terms of presentation purposes, why don't you?
In 2009, the county issued requests for proposals for residential solid waste collection and recycling collection, and Waste Pro was the low bidder and awarded the contract. And part of that contract was a 5-year extension option at terms agreeable to both parties. And as the economy started improving and energy costs are rising again, I thought it would be prudent for the county to take advantage of the 5-year option at this time. And with the discussions and negotiations with Waste Pro, the terms that were agreeable to both were the exact dollar amount that we have currently for the residential collection. So there's no annual CPI adjustment in it. There's no fuel surcharge adjustment in it. So the residential rates would be the $252.06 for the next 7 years. And that's why I recommended that we exercise that option. And part of that option was that Waste Pro, at their cost, would purchase the 20,000 single-stream recycling carts required to convert the county over to single-stream recycling when the facility was completed at the Solid Waste Division. In addition, they would have to purchase all new natural gas-powered recycling trucks. In addition to that, they would be required to have a performance bond in place to guarantee us payment for 100 tons a day of single-stream recycling. If they couldn't deliver, that bond would pay the processing fee. So we would be insulated from any market fluctuations on the commodities because we are not dependent whatsoever on the value of the commodities. Our economic model is only based upon processing fees. And that's why we requested that they have that performance bond in place, which they agreed to. The next item would be the Second Amendment to the exclusive commercial agreement. which would allow us, if Waste Pro requested us to market their commodities with the commodities we recover at the landfill, such as the cardboard, the metal, and the plastics that we recover from the waste stream. And number 9 would be exercising the 5-year option in the commercial agreement at the same terms and conditions that we have today, which are $5.50 a cubic yard, with no CPI and no fuel surcharge in that. And Waste Pro agreed to that. And with that, I'll entertain any questions from the board on those 3 items.
Mr. McIntyre, can you provide just a brief overview as it relates to the amendment process and where we sit today as it relates to these franchises?
Well, the item 7 is, as Mr. Roberts said, relates to the exclusive residential collection service agreement. As he indicated, that item was bid. There was an initial term. It does have a 5-year option. So from a legal standpoint, I'm comfortable with the board exercising the option at this time. And given Mr. Roberts' presentation on the rates, I think that would clearly be in the county's best interest, and I would support the recommendation. The exclusive commercial franchise was awarded in April of 2012. We did enter into a franchise agreement. The second amendment, the first item, which is B8, changes, really broadens the definitions of recyclable metals to recyclable materials. It strikes some language in there about dual stream since we're going to single stream, and certainly I have no problems with that. The third amendment, again, as Mr. Roberts indicated, the original agreement allowed for an extension, a 5-year extension. I have no problems from a legal perspective with the board exercising that. And again, under the circumstances as outlined by Mr. Roberts in terms of the rates, it seems to be in the best interest of the county.
And Mr. Roberts, in terms of the experience that you have, is it common for counties or municipalities to activate and to do something on an early basis by, at this point in time, actually extending the agreement for the additional 5 years rather than waiting to the end of the current term?
Mr. Chairman, yes. In fact, Martin County entered into a contract with their exclusive hauler, I believe it was in 2007, an 8-year term with a 5-year option. And in 3 years inside of that contract, I believe they opted to extend it for the 5 years, so that one was actually done 5 years early.
Wow. Could you also just briefly describe the single stream versus dual stream process? It seems like that seems to be a wave that's a neat trend that I see people moving towards. There are obviously a lot of benefits that I'm hearing associated with that process. So thinking about the residential side in particular, currently we have 2 bins that are often placed out at the curb. The single stream process would eliminate 2-bin process and would have a cart that I assume is going to be a wheeled cart, so there's going to be ease for the resident as that moves forward. Could you just describe that process a little bit?
So, Mr. Chairman, that is correct. The 2-bin system, one of the bin in St. Lucie County, it's the blue one, is all of the containers, whether it be glass, aluminum, steel, or plastic containers. The green one is all the fiber products, which is all the paper, whether it be newspapers, OCC, which is old corrugated containers, we commonly call that cardboard, and regular paper as well. And with single stream, you would move to a 64-gallon wheeled cart, as you referred to, Mr. Chairman, which is easier to move to the curb, and more commodities can go in there, especially if it's cardboard, because currently, if you want to recycle cardboard as a resident, you need to cut it up to the size of the bin. With a 64-gallon cart, a lot of that cutting is reduced, and it should increase the recycling rate, I would estimate, by 10%. In some places, it's went up as high as 15%.
Questions or comments for staff at this point?
You mentioned a recently renewed contract in Martin County. Do you know what the cost per cubic yard of that renewed contract is?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Zadowski, I believe the rate in Martin County is now $10.33 per cubic yard, and I do believe that it also has a fuel surcharge allowable in it and a CPI. I believe that's correct. And as I stated, our rate is $5.50 a yard guaranteed for the next 7 years.
So about half.
44%, I would estimate.
Okay, how do we compare with Indian River County with our cubic yard per collection?
Indian River County has 2 exclusive haulers up there, and I believe the average rate for Indian River County is $8.60, the blended rate up there. I don't know of another rate around the state that's $5.50 as a commercial exclusive agreement and that has no annual CPI or fuel surcharge in it.
Okay. Now, as part of this, we were taking these kind of all together, so I'm a little off my game here. So, a couple of questions. For us to do a, what do you call that, a sorting facility, why is that important to St. Lucie County as compared to somewhere else?
Well, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Zdowski, the county has no waste stream as far as curbside recyclables. When Waste Pro picks them up from our contract, it's their material. When they pick it up in the city of Port St. Lucie, it's the city's material. If it comes to St. Lucie County, not only can we process it and make the revenue off of the processing fee, more revenue can go back to the city of Port St. Lucie, and Waste Pro hopefully could reduce rates down in time for us.
So, and if it were to build this, you know, we'd be operating this and we'd receive how much in revenue for doing the processing part of it?
Under the proposed agreement, Waste Pro would have to have in place a 100 per ton per day performance bond, and it's $55 plus $8 for the baling and handling fee, so $6,300 a day times 304 days, I believe, we're open. I think that works out to like $1.8 million a year in revenue.
And we're paying somebody now? What are we paying now? If we're
not doing it right now.
But are we paying somebody to do this, or?
Waste Pro pays people to do this right now. And it's in dual stream, but Waste Pro did convert all of Hutchinson Island over to single stream, I believe it was in August. And we retrofitted our C&D processing facility with some adjustments we did to process single stream down into dual stream, and we've been very successful at that.
Now, let me ask you, you know, again, there was someone from the public asking about, you know, creating blue-collar jobs. Will there be any jobs created from what we're trying to accomplish here?
Absolutely. From the construction of the facility, I've heard 75 construction jobs, and then there would be 15 people at the facility itself.
Okay. That's all I have for now. I'll wait. See what
I'd like to ask a question. How much would it take to build this type of facility?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Johnson, the estimates we have in CDM is here as well, $5.5 million, and I have spoken to approximately 30 operators of these facilities around the world, all over Canada, Europe, and the United States, and actually visited a private facility in Columbus, Ohio, just about a month ago to get their cost and watch the operation and the maintenance cost of the facilities.
So it costs about $5 million to build a facility.
Yes, sir.
We get a $1.8 million return per year.
Correct.
My question would be, would it be more convenient for someone else to build that facility, or would it be more convenient for us to build that facility and receive profits off of it?
It would be more profitable for someone else to build that facility. I don't know if convenience is the word, it's profit.
Okay.
But the county operating it, we don't necessarily have to make a profit, but the economic model that we have, the answer is yes, we're going to make a profit, and our partners are aware of it, and they very much like the concept.
So in most cases, when someone else builds a facility, you're saying basically you don't receive profit. It's just a service that they're providing through to us.
To our hauler. Not
exactly, to our hauler.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mr. Roberts, I think we need to be cautious with the fact that we wouldn't want you going into a venture that's going to become a cash drain from the county system from that particular standpoint. So clearly, if you're looking at this and it's something you believe the county should be getting into, it's because we believe it's going to be not only beneficial from the environmental standpoint and others, but it's something that we believe is also going to become cost-effective and productive for you. Realizing, if you wouldn't mind, just take a moment to describe the differences between how you operate versus tax-funded entities within the county. Clearly, you're in what we call an enterprise fund, so you are operating separately as a business. You're not receiving tax support. You're completely based upon the user fees and funds that come in from that.
Mr. Chairman, that's correct. The Solid Waste Division is an enterprise fund, and we operate solely on the tipping fees that our customers pay, whether it's on the non-ad valorem tax or not, but it's coming in as paying for the tipping fees on any waste that's delivered to the facility. So your assessment of it operating as a business is right on target, in my opinion, because I operate it like it is a private business, and so it supports itself and makes money.
Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, Commissioner.
I would like to take that conversation just a step further, because I think there needs to be some additional clarification. Being an enterprise fund, those funds do not come to the county for our general fund. Those are strictly for the landfill, to be reinvested back into the landfill. So when I'm hearing the word profit and run like a business and stuff, I just want to make sure that we're going to take it the one step further. That so-called profit is actually funds that goes back into support down the road, whether it's going to be we have to buy new property some year, hopefully never, but to site a new landfill and or any improvements that we make out there in keeping up with technology. Those are the funds that are it's used for, not the county's general fund.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Hutchinson, that's exactly correct. The word that I used, profit, is the term that I would use for future landfill expansion or any future capital expansion. So we have the revenue on hand. We need to borrow no funds, and it has no impact on the general fund.
Thank you. And I think it also gives us the ability to actually continue to consider dropping some of our tipping fees in the future.
That's correct.
Commissioner. Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Hutchinson, thank you for clarifying that, because I had misspoken in a meeting I had yesterday regarding those revenues coming back the other direction. So I did a little investigation, and we recently created a construction and demolition facility, Mr. Roberts, did we not? And that was like in 2009 or 10.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Zadowski, we installed the C&D recycling facility, construction and demolition debris. It went operational in June of 2004 at a cost of $4.3 million. In December of last year, we hit $4.38 million in revenue from that facility.
So that facility is paid for.
That's correct.
And so we had to raise our tipping fee from $19 to $29, and that's where I got my numbers, 2003 to 2009.
It was 2009 to date is when we raised it.
Okay.
We looked at it after we went into operation and said, okay, if we're going to get the return on investment as quickly as we like, we need to raise this rate until such time that we get the revenue back.
So now that we've done that, you can bring another item back to us to reduce it back to the original amount?
That's correct. I think that's item G3 or 4.
Okay. So, again, from Commissioner Johnson's question about, constructing a facility and the value in return, I think there's a proven, situation where we've been able to return our investment, excuse me, frog in my throat, but also now be able to bring a reduction in our tipping fee to benefit the consumer.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Zadowski, that's correct. Another example is the baling facility that we constructed. That was a cost of $10 million. We had the cash to do it, and that probably in 3 years the capital was returned on that because of the space we saved and the revenue that we're getting from all the materials we pull off the solid waste on the tipping floor, the metals, the plastic, the wood.
And that just brings, and this really is not part of this discussion, but I think it's important to raise the issue since we're having this conversation. From those materials, the metals, the cardboard, and so on and so forth, we have an agreement with Port St. Lucie for providing their waste stream to our landfill and being able to recycle those products. What did we return to Port St. Lucie last year on their behalf of their waste stream into our landfill?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Zadowski, that's correct. In 2010, we instituted the revenue sharing program, and we estimated the city would get $240,000 a year at that time. That was the estimate. But after the first full year, the city realized a payment of $486,000 for that year versus the $240,000 they got the first year.
So, and then to add on to that, we provided a similar offer to the city of Fort Pierce, but they chose to take another road. What would have been the revenue? I think we originally said $125,000, but what was the revenue last year that would have gone to the city of Fort Pierce if they participated?
Commissioner Zadowski, yes, we estimated it to be 120. It would have been, I think, 242,000.
Okay. Well, I think you're doing a great job, and I think that some of these things are incredible on the benefits for our ratepayers. So, you're no chair.
Are there any other comments?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment or two. I kind of hesitate to bring forward detailed information, but since that's where we're going, I'd just like to mention that, if I'm not mistaken, the revenue sharing includes not only any sort of recycling benefits, there's also a fee for the methane, which is produced as a natural process of the landfill, which is currently sold to Tropicana, I believe.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Lewis, that's correct. We've been in a contract with Tropicana, or PepsiCo as their parent company, since 2004, and selling all of the landfill gas created that they previously used as fuel in their boilers in lieu of natural gas, but now they have invested $5 million into a generator set that runs strictly on landfill gas, so now they can take all of the gas that we can possibly produce.
And once again, since we're getting into this information, this is one of those topics that I never knew I wanted to know about, but it really is fascinating when you get into the functions of the landfill, or it has been anyway. One of the things that I think we're operating under here is there's a requirement from the state coming to increase the percentage of our recyclables. I understand we're one of the highest percentages in the state currently, but the increase will be coming. Can you fill us in on that exact figure, Mr. Roberts? I've forgotten.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Lewis, that's correct. I think 2010 is the most recent certified data from DEP, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, on the recycling rates, and St. Lucie County was number 3 with a rate of 47% that year, I believe. And the state has instituted a target of 75% by 2020. And I think with gasification that we're looking at, thermal conversion, and moving the county to single stream, we should be in a pretty good position to hit that target.
Well, one of the comments I have had, I'm sure Mr. Roberts is tired of hearing it from me, but when we're looking at the landfill operations and we're attempting to move forward with technology and fine-tune our services, so to speak, I think we need to consider the fact, where in the world would you put another landfill? I don't think there is a way to site another landfill, so we have to find some other way to deal with the growing waste or recyclables or whatever comes from our community. So I think moving forward in this direction so we can increase our capabilities of handling these things is only sensible and reasonable.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Lewis, I think your assessment is correct on citing another landfill. If we want to have control of our own destiny on our solid waste, I think it's prudent for us to move in that direction.
One final question from me, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Roberts, you indicated in your presentation that the franchise that we're working with was to place their trucks into a natural gas type process, so that would reduce the carbon footprint, reduce the diesel particulates in the St. Lucie County. But as importantly, they did just invest some number in a facility in St. Lucie County. Do you have any idea? It was $15 or $17 million. And I think that moving forward as in a good business, they've invested in St. Lucie County at a tune of over $15 million. So I think that moving forward with the franchise, but I'm going to listen further with comments. But do you have any input on what they've done?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Zadowski, that's correct. Their whole fleet for front load and rear load is now operating on compressed natural gas. This proposal would require them to change their recycling trucks over to operate on compressed natural gas. And Mr. Mackey from Waste Pro is in the audience, but I think your number is fairly accurate. I mean, I thought that just the CNG station alone was $5 million that they invested in St. Lucie County.
Okay. All right, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions for staff at this time? This isn't a public hearing. However, because of the nature of this, I'd like to be able to provide the public with the opportunity to come up and comment on this item. you'd like to, feel free to come forward, provide your name and address for the record. Morning, Mr. Sabin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commission. For the record, I'm Jeff Sabin, Government Affairs Manager for Waste Management. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm housed in Hobe Sound, by the way, but we have a new property and facility we're proud of right down the street on Selvitz Road. And I'm here today to address all of the items, and with me today is Dennis Cork, who you've already familiar with, and Travis Walker as well. And we have a number of things we want to discuss with you today, and just to be brief too, the fact that a lot of information has just been shared publicly that wasn't necessarily available at the time of the packet late last week, and so we really didn't have a chance to review all of the data and try and ask some questions. So that's one of the reasons we're here today, and one of the reasons we had met with all of you yesterday. So with that, my team and I spoke with each of you yesterday, and so I won't repeat everything we discussed, but I will try to highlight the key parts of our discussions. We are here specifically to request that items 6B, 7 through 9, and 6G, 3, recycling awards, be tabled for further evaluation by staff, the public, and the private sector. We learned about the various contract extensions and the proposed changes to the tipping fee schedule late last week, as I said, and then when reviewing the board's agenda, and although we have not been invited to discuss any of these actions with county staff, it appears from the various elements on today's agenda that the county is moving full steam ahead towards single-stream recycling. And as the industry leader, we applaud you for that. It has been a move we've been incorporating, initiating, and rolling out for years, so we're very familiar with the program, and again, we recognize the fact that this is a move in the right direction, not only for the county, but the industry and the environment. We're going to see a tremendous amount of diversion through the single-stream program, as we're experiencing in places like Martin County and others, which are right by your neighbors. So it's certainly moving in the right direction, and it outweighs, as your staff pointed out, some of the downside. That's increased contamination, but most of our data confirms the fact that it far outweighs by the increased participation and convenience of the program. But it also appears from the various elements presented today that the county is contemplating making an investment in processing, as validated by Mr. Roberts, and processing the blended recycling stream. And as we discussed with each one of you, we don't believe that this is the best path for the county to choose. You spoke to the more or less P&L, but I think we can do better than $8 a ton and save you the capital costs, although based on what we heard today, it's formulated that your return on investment looks like it would make a good business decision. But our concern is really the net revenue derived. Although the word profit was used, we understand it would be net revenue. We still believe firmly that by reaching out to the private sector, you could avoid making that capital expense and enjoy the fact that we are the leaders in the industry relative to marketing and processing, and it's based on economies of scale. And really, that's another thing. The county does a great job, as you pointed out, of recycling. Number 3 in the state, highly commendable. You divert a lot of materials, especially vegetative and C&D. And I know that you really want to point to and look to and refine your curbside collection source separation. Your percentages there you got a lot of room to expand and improve and add to the 47%. So we're encouraged by that. And we readily admit that we don't have all the numbers. That's one of the reasons we asked to meet with you and also are here today. But as a representative of the largest recycling company in the world, I can tell you that in operational size, economy of scale, the counties will have difficulty achieving those economies of scale, which are Waste Management, or there are other firms, some of which are represented here today, that have processing capabilities here locally as well. We can make you a net revenue number that exceeds what your projections are and what was shared with us just now, today, and would like an opportunity to further discuss that with your staff. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to reach into and bring our Recycle America folks, have them fly in today. That way they could address and discuss with you statistical data specific to the industry, specific to single-stream recycling processing, what the real costs are and what the net revenues would be within this market. And we'd like that opportunity to invite them in to meet with your staff to talk further about it, to give you some insight, create some alternatives, pretty much avoid the cost of a capital investment. That's the other avoided cost component I think is really important, especially from the public sector point of view. You look at those things every day, especially with the economy and everything that you're dealing with. So I think that would be something that you would be interested in. Processing, sales, market access that we have, ability to absorb and weather the risks of a commodity, highly volatile marketplace. And I know, again, my hat's off to you. You've done a really, really good job with the facilities and what you're doing now.
Mr. Secretary?
Yes, sir.
I want to keep you, because you were going pretty fast. So, when you talk about the facility side, I raised a component here recently that our C&D recycling facility was a cost of $4.3 million, and we had, in 2009, had to raise our tipping fee about $10. We've recovered that cost, and now today we're looking to approve reducing that tipping fee by that $10. So your comments that the investment in the facility may not be in our best interest, I think that we have a clear evidence that our recent investment has paid dividends.
Correct, and I applaud you for that. And I'm just suggesting that if you look towards this highly mechanized processing, it's capital intensive, $5.5 million. That's a big capital expenditure and commitment, and it includes debt service and everything else. We're just suggesting that you could avoid even spending a nickel, have discussions with us, access our markets, and make net revenue that exceeds that pretty much exceeds the number that you were discussing earlier. So that's really why we're here, to offer you that opportunity and to give us an opportunity to sit down with your staff to discuss that further. And there are other folks are here today to talk about the county's hauling contracts. We continue to be disappointed that just last year the prior commission decided not to invite solicitations and outside business, displacing the folks that were here, some of which were here for over 30 years as longtime providers. And we assure the county that if and when you decide to seek solicitations, Waste Management will definitely pursue your business. Thank you very much for your time.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Saban?
Yes.
Do you have an exclusive franchise agreement with Martin County?
Yes, we do.
What's the difficulty, or what's the difference between St. Lucie County having an exclusive franchise as you hold with Martin County? Why was it different for you to hold an exclusive franchise fee with Martin and we can't have one here in St. Lucie County?
Speaking for Waste Management, but again, other firms in the room enjoy those long-term relationships with their public sector partners. Each franchise agreement is very unique in every aspect. Number of units, commercial businesses, levels of service, all of which are the drivers for establishing those franchises. So Waste Management, similarly to other haulers and your current hauler, Waste Pro, enjoy long-term franchise agreements with their public sector partners. So I'm not here contending that or contending any legal aspect of what you're doing as policymakers. I respect what you're doing. I'm just offering, and our point is directed more to the processing on the recycling and that ability. However, there is an opportunity, and I'm not exactly sure what is the residential rate currently today?
For tipping?
No, the collection. You're renewing a residential franchise that has a specific rate per resident. So this is about the ratepayer, too, actually, now that you bring that up. Mm-hmm. So the question is, what is that rate per month that the ratepayer actually is going to be paying?
I'm going to leave that to Ron, but I know that $41 has been our tipping fee, and actually it was $40 for over 17 years, and we hadn't raised it until about 2 years ago by $1. So from maintaining a position of quality, service, and cost, I think the county has done a good job at that over a 17-year period, having not had a single increase.
That shows great stability and management as well. I commend you for that.
In addition,
absolutely,
it's been stated also that we do have statutes in which, and Ron's our expert, but that we are unable to charge above and beyond the cost of our function as a waste processing and landfill. But I see the numbers here for Martin County's renewed contract that you just apparently renewed for $10.33. How do we argue with St. Lucie's rate at 5.5 or $5.50 per cubic yard for commercial? How do we do that?
If we could roll back the time a little bit, and we'll talk specifically, since you asked, about Martin County. In 3 years prior to 2010, in 2007, Martin County actually went out for solicitations. So this was built on an agreement that had a solicitation and an extension provision similar to yours. But in 2007, Martin County actually went out for the solicitation. And I point to, so I want to address and answer your question as well about the difference in the rates. But what happened in Martin County was also hinged on an acquisition of another company where rates were lowered. So, but it was solicited, and that was the point. And historically, St. Lucie County has always solicited both residential and commercial, as you know, has been open for up until last year. So the residential has been bid every 5 years, as it was in 2009. So this is kind of an exception to the rule for you all as policymakers, because you normally would put every year put it out to bid prior to that.
Well, let me ask you, if you just recently had this bid process in Martin County and you're in at $10.33 and we're looking at $5.50, Martin County did the bidding process and apparently others have joined, and you were the lowest bidder at $10.33. We're saving about half with the proposal here. The math seems simple to me. Help me.
In my first statement, in comparing the unique franchises, depends on how many total units, what's your drive time, mile per can, all of those statistical, operational costs all factor into establishing rates. And I think all of my industry partners here and competitors actually would agree with that. So that's why the rates are different, and there's a balancing between commercial rates and residential rates as well. So that's why I asked you the question, what was the residential rate per month, per unit, per resident, and what that ratepayer actually pays, because you balance the two. That's really what it's all about, depending on what the policy makers decide on what's important to them and their constituents.
You want to let Ron answer the question?
Mr. Roberts, if you wouldn't mind, just provide a little background information as it relates to the residential rates.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. Currently, residents pay $252.06 per year, and that includes 2 times a week garbage, once a week yard waste unlimited, bulk waste unlimited, and recycling. The City of Port St. Lucie, where I am a resident, I pay $267 per year, and I believe the City of Fort Pierce pays $261.
263.
63.
I live there.
63?
63.
You know how that compares to Martin County?
Very close.
It's based on my Travis's calculator. That's $21 a month per resident.
No, per household.
Per household, thank you. Single family, I believe. It's comparable.
And then
it's a comparable rate.
You also had a question on the fact that we can do better than $8 a ton.
Well, the $8 a ton is just for the baling and handling. The $55 a ton is for processing the material, but it's being repeated that the county could put this out. The county has no material. We own no material. Port St. Lucie owns theirs. Waste Pro owns ours when it's picked up at the curb, and all we're trying to do is control our own destiny.
So Waste Pro has exclusive rights to the material in the county?
That's correct. Any exclusive hauler that we've
Right,
had,
that is
Commissioner Johnson, it's their material once they pick it up.
And- And Waste Management has that with the city of Fort Pierce.
I think Fort Pierce is now doing the collection themselves.
Correct.
Okay. But they go to your landfill?
Yes.
Okay.
That was our contention about the processing. And I guess for clarification purposes, maybe I'm a little confused, so I apologize. But I thought in reading through the data, of course, since we just got in, didn't study it, but do the agreements require that Waste Pro collect, transport, and dispose of the single-stream recyclable materials at the county's facility?
Mr. Chairman, should I answer that question?
Yes.
The current contract doesn't require them to take it anywhere in particular other than a recycling facility, not to our facility.
I'm aware of that. I am.
In the new agreement that's proposed, they would bring it to us by contract, or they would guarantee by payment bond 100 tons a day of revenue from single stream. So they can take it anywhere they want, but if they don't bring it to us, their payment bond is going to cover that cost.
In essence, they're going to bring the material to you?
Correct.
That's what I'm asking. So if the material's contemplated of coming to the county's processing facility, there's no discussion of the actual processing other than what we just heard today. And all we're asking you is to allow us the opportunity to sit down and talk to Ron and discuss potential for processing, net revenue, cost avoidance to the county, and if you want to reconsider your options and alternatives for the franchises, great. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Saban. Anyone else wishing to come up and provide comments? Morning, Mr. Patterson.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. Bill Patterson, 1291 Coral Reef Street, Port St. Lucie. I am just speaking to the issue of, I agree with Commissioner Zadowski that the offer before us seems very attractive. However, the only issue I have is that when you don't know what the other companies are offering, you don't know if it's the most attractive offer in the room. And I would suggest that the bidding process be something that the County Commission implement, if not now, but in the future. And I'm totally lost on this. I thought everything sounded great until the last speaker came up, and then I got a little bit confused as to where everything is going. This is not my area of expertise, obviously. But as I said, I think generally speaking, when there is a bidding process and when people are fighting over your business, then the consumer is the person who wins in the long run. That's all. Thank you.
And just for an update on that, Mr. Roberts, if you wouldn't mind describing what actually happened back in 2009 and then again through 2012 and some of the agreements that have been set up so that people are aware of.
Mr. Chairman, in 2009, we put out residential collection and disposal for bid. And the reason I recommended not doing that for commercial, because the city of Port St. Lucie had very recently done that. Their rate is $6.41 per cubic yard with an annual CPI adjustment in there. And I talked to the city about piggybacking their bid, and they had no issue with it. But then I spoke with our county administrator about me talking to our current hauler and seeing if I could negotiate a better rate. And what we negotiated was a far better rate at $5.50 per cubic yard fixed for 7 years, which means the condo associations, who are a majority of the people out on the island that I had met with, really liked this option because their budgeting is fixed for 7 years on solid waste disposal.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Munson.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. It is still morning. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to say that when I got up.
End of my class
But
time.
thank you for the opportunity to be here, and I appreciate the fact that you took these items off the consent agenda so some of us as citizens and business owners could get up and address some of the issues and concerns. First of all, I hope that I want to thank you for your service, and I understand certainly and appreciate the complexity and oftentimes the controversial issues that come before you. So I do appreciate your positions when it comes forward. And I'd like to personally say to Ron Roberts, Mr. Roberts, he does an excellent job, and I went out and he was very kind to take me on a tour of the facility and the baling facility and all, and I'm so impressed with what he does out there, and he's always on the cutting edge of what he does. So I don't want you to think that I'm here speaking in opposition of going to single-stream recycling, because that's not my intent.
Well, he does need to do something about air freshener. He has a terrible time with that.
You'll have to bear with me. Please humor me, because I had some remarks written out, but as the meeting was going on, I wrote down some key words that came up, and I don't want to miss anything. And as all of you know, one of the key words was our County Commission Chairman said he's very passionate. As all of you know me from running, I'm very passionate on a lot of issues here in St. Lucie County, so I tend to go on and on, so I'm going to try to keep myself contained here. So one of those words being
Fortunately, we have a buzzer to control you there.
Yes, yes, I know. Well, I saw his time, so I should be pretty good. Passion being one. Commissioner Lewis talked about mandates and how she hates mandates that are coming down from the state. So I do want to address that concern as a business owner. And, oh, by the way, for the record, I am a resident. I reside at 2042 Southeast Hanford Road in Port St. Lucie. I'm also a commercial property owner with commercial property at 10760 through 10796 South US 1. Although it's in Port St. Lucie, it is in the unincorporated area of St. Lucie County. So that being said, I did want to make that for the record. Some of the other buzzwords was enterprise, and I appreciate that this is an enterprise project, but it was talked about being run like a business. I am a businesswoman, and although I'm not opposed to the single stream, I am opposed to the process that's going on right now as a businesswoman. First of all, we're talking about multi-million-dollar projects, and I don't think oftentimes that just doing automatic renewals or not going out to bid, as was the case on the commercial contract last year, is always the right thing to do, for several reasons. One, I just think as commissioners and as citizens, we want to make sure we're getting the best deal we can, and the only way we know that is by going out with criteria and doing an RFP. Secondly, by doing that, it really leaves no room for other citizens and otherwise to think that there's an impropriety going on, because we know we will always want to take that off the table for staff and for commissioners, that things are being done properly and above board and with transparency. Secondly, I just think it's good business practice. I've done it in my business. I have vendors I've been using for 30-some years, but I still go out to bid so that I make sure they're competitive and that I'm getting good rates. And it's the right thing to do for the residents and the citizens of this community. As far as the residential contract, exclusive contract, I don't have a problem with it. I've been a resident of this area for many years, and I knew before there was exclusive contracts for residential trash hauling, a lot of people would dump their residential out, whether it was in the country, on a country road. They would use commercial containers. I used to run the Association of Realtors at the corner of Midway and 25th Street when it was located there, or Midway and US 1 at Town South Plaza, and oftentimes as tenants we'd go out to dump, and there was never any room because at that time there was not a residential agreement, and residents would come and put their trash in there. So I do appreciate where you are with that. Although I still think you need to do our RFPs, even on the residential. I am very much opposed to the commercial exclusivity. As a business owner, I believe the government should not be making my business decisions, just as you don't want the state mandating to you. Quite frankly, I don't want you as government mandating and bidding out my contracts. I think that should be left up to me as a business owner. I don't want you negotiating my contracts, and I don't want you limiting my options. And I will say to those of you out there that might have gotten a better contract on your commercial, I would suggest you come to me, and I'll be more than happy to be a consultant to you to negotiate a really good contract, because I had a really good contract before this exclusive contract came into place. Upon the approval of last year's commercial contract, my costs have increased now, or will be increasing as of October 1 of this year, by 138%. I don't know about you as a business and as a county and as a community having to bear that kind of an increase, particularly in the current economic climate. My bill is going from 159.84 cents a month to $381.04 a month for an 8-yard container with twice-a-week pickup. And I apologize right now to Commissioner Zadowski because yesterday I misquoted. I said I was going up to $395, but the point of the matter is it's still a 138% increase. While I realize that I can probably cut my costs, and I will be looking to do that by recycling, it's oftentimes, as a commercial business owner, harder to get your tenants to go ahead and work with you on recycling. I have a hard time getting them to just break down their boxes sometime. So, again, I would hope that we will continue to recycle, but I would like to see on the commercial side that you leave that to us commercial owners to make those decisions. I thank you, and if you have any questions.
Mr. Chairman, Mrs. Swanson, recently Martin County went out to bid, and their low bidder was $10.33. The current rate, as indicated by Mr. Roberts in St. Lucie for commercial, was $5.50 per cubic yard with no fuel charge or CPI. From a commissioner's standpoint, and I listened to you very passionately over several months talking about making a decision. And you were going to make decisions which were very difficult sometimes, and you would take the consideration of the public, but you would just make the hard decision. Well, for me today, looking at the comparison of $10.33 for a 5-year early renewal contract in Martin, and today seeing one for $5.50 for consideration that Mr. Roberts has brought us, I intend to make a hard decision. Actually, this one's an easy decision for me. Because I will be saving the ratepayers quite a substantial amount of money by comparison. So thank you for your presentation.
Well, I appreciate that. I do hope when it sounds to me like you're moving to approve this, but I do hope that you would at least consider on the commercial side not renewing for 5 years so that this can be addressed, and that so some of the other commercial property owners would at least have a stake and a say in this. Thank you.
Good morning. How are you?
Or is it afternoon? Okay. Good morning. Joanne Stanley, Republic Services. We were displaced last year. We were here for 25 years servicing the commercial businesses, and we enjoyed working with the businesses here in the community. But we do want to address a few things today. First of all is about the bid process. They talked about Martin County, but let me talk about the most recent one, and that's Palm Beach County. Palm Beach County goes out to bid every 5 years through the Solid Waste Authority. And in the newspaper, they awarded 4 haulers because it's a larger county and saved anywhere from 30 to 60% on their current rates. So they make a practice every 5 years of putting it out to bid. They don't always do well, but this year they have made an incredible, and what they did is they set their commercial rates at $3.50 so that the residential rates would actually kind of be comparing apples to apples. Currently, you have 2 different contracts, but that's usually what an exclusive franchise is that. So I just wanted to say that there are other counties that actually go out to bid and actually do save money for the residents.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Stanley, my numbers show that their recent bid in January of 13 show rates of $6.48 per cubic yard with a fuel charge and a CPI component. So with your statement that they reduced by 60%, ours still is presented at $5.50 per cubic yard. So how do I rectify a 90-cent difference on the benefit of St. Lucie County ratepayers? Based on your assertion
the $6 is Martin. I'm talking Palm Beach County?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that could be that was the combined rate. The new contract was just signed and approved, and they are now at $3.50 per cubic yard for the residential. It was set by the county.
This was the commercial rates that you just spoke about.
Right. The commercial rates are now
commercial with commercial and the residential to residential.
Right.
So the conversation that you said residential was reduced by 60%, and it's $6.48 per cubic yard, and our presentation today is to consider $5.50 a cubic yard. So I have to do what's in the best interest of St. Lucie County residents, and it's a 90-cent difference on the benefit of the St. Lucie County.
Okay. The $5.50 is your commercial rate, correct?
That's what you just stated in your comments moments ago.
Right. So that is your commercial rate. The new commercial rate for Palm Beach County is going to be $3.50 throughout the county. So it's not at the $6.36 as it was a blended rate prior to the RFP or the bid process going out. It's now at $3. It was actually set by the county. And so the residential rates do vary, but they have saved quite a bit of money. I think our service area is $125 a year is now what the new cost is. And that is not including disposal, but it is a cost savings. $125, $69 or something like that per year.
Mr. Roberts, I know you did some research on all this. You provided data. Did you find something different?
Mr. Chairman, I believe what the lady is speaking about is the county set the collection rate. Inside of that, in addition to the collection rate of $3.25 a cubic yard, they allotted 133 pounds per cubic yard of weight in the container that the hauler would have to pay that disposal and pass it on to the customer. When you add everything together, I do believe it comes to $6.48, and there's another person in this crowd, Mr. Mackey from Waste Pro, that actually bid on it.
That's with disposal?
Yes, ma'am.
I was talking collection only. I'm sorry, I thought it was collection only.
Right, ours includes disposal.
Well, second, we're also talking about a processing
But I
facility.
want to make sure we're clear then. So we're at $5.50 total rate, disposal, everything. That is with no fuel surcharge and no CPI. And my understanding is that Palm Beach County is at $6.48, including disposal, and they also provide for a CPI and a fuel surcharge.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that to be correct.
Okay. All right. Can I go, next would be the processing facility. I just, as as Mr. Saban said, we would love to have the opportunity also to come and talk to you. We did recently a private public partnership with the city of Jacksonville, building a brand new mega single stream MRF up there, and they're very happy. So I'd recommend you, if you'd like to move forward with that, we would love to be able to come and talk to you about what we've done with the city of Jacksonville also. As the second largest solid waste and recycling hauler in the United States, we love to partner with counties and municipalities throughout the country to help them achieve the recycling goals that they're looking for. And it is a 75% goal that needs to be reached by 2020 through the state of Florida. So basically all we're saying is we would love to have the opportunity. I mean, we're unprepared also because this came out and we didn't have the backup or the numbers behind it. But again, we would love to come and meet with you all and talk to you about what we can offer as services. Since we have been in the county for 25 years, we would love to continue to work here, and we would definitely love to bid on the residential if you put it out to bid. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stanley. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Thank you very much for allowing us to speak. I'm Patty Hamilton from Southern Waste Systems and Sun Recycling. And I just wanted to echo some of the comments that were made. I think an important one is, in today's economy in the waste industry, we've seen the last 5 years some major changes. And in the past few months, there have been places around the state, and we're probably privy to them a little more than others because we read the industry journals and know that. But I think maybe even the idea of a workshop to really talk about some of these details. Even, Joanne said $3.50, and I think Mr. Roberts said $3.25, and to my recollection, it was $3.95. So, we can get into all those details. But I think the real key to it is the opportunity for the citizens of your county to take the time and the energy and probably some cost to take a look at this and put the process out to a bid or an RFP. In Palm Beach County, as Joanne stated, they're required by legislation every 5 years to go out to bid, and the process that just happened was a very good, clean, open process. The savings to the residents of the unincorporated area of Palm Beach County, they say is, and I don't have all the numbers here, but it's near $11 million. I can tell you from our personal experience, we have been involved in the 5 municipal bids that have gone out to bid just in Palm Beach County. All the rest have just been renewed, but the 5 that went out, in each case, all of them came in at much lower prices. We were actually awarded 4 of the 5. The only one we were not awarded was in Riviera Beach, and just as that one example, the residents of Riviera Beach had been paying a little near or a little over $16 a month, and we bid $9.80 in an open process. So the bid process has proven throughout the state in all areas to allow.
Are you doing Riviera Beach now?
No, we're not. We did not get awarded the.
Waste Management?
They were still. They re-awarded it to Waste Management, but we were the low bidder and we did qualify in all areas. But just that difference from 16 whatever the change was down to $9.80. And, one of the arguments that has been used traditionally by some of our competitors has been the cost to your county through the time from your staff and the cost to do that bid process. We were just awarded a bid in Southwest Ranches in Broward County where they hired an outside consultant who did a very unbiased, open process. And it was right in the bid that when that bid was awarded, we paid the contract for that consultant. So it was not an extra expense to Southwest Ranches. And that's also, I think, becoming a very common thing. So I do think that by taking a look at this and going out to bid, you're going to see, I think the single stream recycling, 100%, it's the way to go. Recycling is successful when the generators, and when you make it easy for the generators. We've been single-stream recycling construction and demolition material for 30 years, so we are firm believers in that. And you have a lot of companies here that have the financial wherewithal, ourselves included, to really meet any requirements that you have and putting that process out. I think one of the top legislative discussions last year, and will be again this year in Tallahassee, is public-private partnerships. So we also encourage you. I am called every week by someone. I just got a call at the end of last week from a county in North Carolina asking us to consult with them on single-stream C&D recycling. So there are a lot of companies out here that are willing to work with public entities in these public-private partnerships for processing. And many counties, the gentleman from Lee County who we work with, who put their own C&D recycling facility up in Lee County, when they came to see what we did, they said, God, we really should have come and talked with you first, because it's what we do. And no disrespect, I mean, Mr. Roberts runs an excellent operation here and does a great job, but I think that those public-private partnerships are certainly something around the state that they are encouraging, even at the legislative level. So we would enjoy the opportunity to bid. If you decided to go out to bid, we really firmly believe that your citizens will save money, and we would love the opportunity to serve the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hamilton.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners. For the record, Russell Mackey, Regional Vice President, Waste Pro. Nice to see you all today.
See you.
My brain's
still morning, by the way.
Oh, is it? My brain's bouncing around with a lot of things that I've heard here, and I'm going to try to hit all the points that I want to make. But to give you a brief little history lesson, some of you were here when we entered the county in 2004 and took over after the hurricanes, and you've heard the war stories of what we went through, and everything we've ever done, we've done in the best interest of the county. We've always gone over and above to keep the rates low, to offer the best services. We've implemented e-waste programs at no charge to your residents, fluorescent bulb recycling at no charge to your residents. We spent $10 million on a facility and trucks to bring clean natural gas to your residents. I believe, have always acted in good faith and really come to the table with St. Lucie County saying, look, these are things that make sense for you. And these are the surrounding areas of what everybody else is getting. There was some talk about Palm Beach County. And in Palm Beach County, We bid on that contract as well, and we were the low bidder in all 4 areas. When you take those rates with the commercial rate, which is $6.50 and change, and you take the collection rate for the residential and the disposal, those rates are not as good as we're talking about renewing. We're also talking about renewing them for 7 years with no CPIs, no fuel surcharges. We're taking all of the risk on our shoulders of, fuel and things that are beyond our control that could go up. St. Lucie County has always been ahead of the curve. We're looking at recycling and what needs to happen by the year 2020. Single-stream recycling, as you've heard from everybody, is not something that you can really argue against. It makes it easier for the residents, makes it easier for business owners to be able to commingle material together. We're making another sizable investment in St. Lucie County. We have to buy a couple of $1 million worth of carts. As part of this contract, we're taking the rest of our fleet to clean natural gas. That means 100% of St. Lucie County will be on natural gas as a fuel source. I know all of you have been out to our facility. It's a great facility. This makes sense on a lot of different levels. Cost, I think anybody's going to be hard-pressed to find a better deal. I agree with bidding. We've won a lot of our business via the open bid process. And if I thought you could get better rates and a better deal, I wouldn't be up here standing in front of you saying, hey, this is the best deal that makes sense for you. A couple of years ago when you went out to bid, 3 bidders showed up. 4 bidders, maybe. 2 of them submitted no bids on this process. So I find it funny that they're standing here now saying, oh, we want to compete, we're going to compete, we can lower your costs, we can do all of these things. They were the same companies that sat here a couple of years ago when we put this out to bid and we were awarded the contract as the low bidder at that point in time. The recycling facility that you're talking about, and I've heard, we're putting the burden and the risk of the commodity markets and everything on our shoulders. We're putting a bond up that's saying we're going to guarantee you your revenue for building this facility and processing the material. 4 or 5 years ago when we took over the city of Port St. Lucie, the only recycling facility was Waste Management's Recycle America in St. Lucie County. The day that we took over the contract, they shut that facility's doors and said, hey, you're going to have to take your material somewhere else. Good luck finding a place. To come up here now and say, hey, we want the opportunity, we can work together, we can show a place, have a place that makes sense to you. I'm not clear on the intent behind it. I know that your staff works tirelessly to bring the best possible solutions to your residents and to this county. I know that our company has worked tirelessly to do the same. I believe that all of these that are in front of you make sense 100%, and I would hope that you would move forward with them. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Mackey. Thanks. Questions? Anyone else wishing to provide comment at this point? Morning, Mr. Walker.
Good morning. On the record, Travis Walker, address 1342 Southwest Gahath Avenue, Port St. Lucie, Florida, 34953. Just wanted to follow up with a few things. Every county is different. Our county, the reason why we live in our county, the reason why we love our county is because it's different. The sprawl, and we don't have that same sprawl issues that are in other counties. We don't, and those types of issues between door-to-door transportation, those issues between how far it takes to take trash from one place to another, plays into the calculations of those counties. And so when we look at our county, we have to look within the scope of our own county, because the reason why we're here is because we love it, and it's different from those other counties. So we can't always compare. As other parties said, competition is good. These are $50 million worth of contracts, these hauling contracts. I think that anytime you open it up to a process, you open it up to allow for competition, and I think that the reason why we have the system we have is because competition is good, and communication is good. Obviously, what you've heard today is that we got here at the last minute. We got the agenda on Wednesday, we got the agenda back on Friday, and going through the process of discussing the numbers and looking at things, obviously what we're really here for is more time. We've discussed Broward County, we've discussed Palm Beach County, Martin County, and River County. That's 5 counties. There's 62 more counties in the state of Florida that if we wanted to look at the data, take the time, review it, make sure that St. Lucie County is getting the best deal for its money. And that's what I would implore and respectfully request is just some additional time for the parties that are involved to take a look at the data, discuss with staff, make sure that St. Lucie County is getting the best deal. You guys may find that this is the best deal, but what's the rush? If we can help crunch some data, give you guys some different options, and you find a better deal one way for the citizens of St. Lucie County, that's great. If you come back and say, this is the same deal, this is a great deal, but it's just more confirmation that the residents of St. Lucie County are getting the best deal that they can get. So thank you for your time, and I respectfully request that you guys take some time, allow the companies involved to discuss a little bit further with staff. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Travis Walker, you mentioned in your opening statement that the counties are different and that distances and cost to haul is a component of the process. Your client currently takes the materials from the city of Fort Pierce to Okeechobee to their landfill, which makes it viable for them and a cost savings to them at a distance of over 70 miles. So when considering the distance between the facility that Waste Management has, it's about 3 miles from our facility, and or taking the same materials to 70 miles to the landfill in Okeechobee. I'm not a mathematician by any means, but I certainly believe that the cost of traveling 70 miles round trip would add to the cost of that process. Would you agree or disagree?
Chairman, Commissioner Zadowski, your analysis appears to be spot on. I believe that what we have to do is take all of the factors, whether it's fuel or trash or on several different levels. There's a totality of the circumstances that go into these bids. If it were 1 or 2 factors, an RFP wouldn't be an involved process, and actually the county could go out to bid fairly quickly, and they would come back very quickly with these calculations. But unfortunately, the bids that come in for you are based upon several different factors that have to be looked at carefully. And so it just comes back to, at this point, more time to crunch those numbers and make sure that you guys are getting the best deal.
Let me ask this question then. Recently, Port St. Lucie went out to bid, and as a government agency, we certainly can piggyback any of those contracts. They did the work. They spent staff time to do that. I believe that Mr. Roberts came in with a substantially lower number than what was contracted with Port St. Lucie. How do we deal with that? I mean, simply we had the opportunity to piggyback a higher cost, but Mr. Roberts got a lower deal. How do we?
Well, Chairman, Commissioner Zadowski, there's definitely several different options, different avenues to go through, and that's why additional time is needed in order to crunch the numbers, make sure that that St. Lucie County is getting the best deal.
I'll just ask you one final question. If it's Waste Management or any of the other haulers in the room, they're largely working with a diesel fuel at probably $4.85 a gallon now. The cost of CNG is, throw me a number, Mr. Mackey, do you have a? So it's $2? About half the price. So when you're considering that, I'm also considering that as well, that whether running diesel at $4.85 or $2 for CNG with a substantial investment of millions of dollars, I think they were doing a pretty good job at making the presentation. As importantly, when these continuing contracts or these franchise agreements come up, as indicated by your client, they have an agreement, an additional 5 years with Martin County, and I believe that agreement's going on for about 50 years. Is that not true? And I'll have to look into your. It's a pretty substantially long agreement with the Martin County, so. I think what we're seeing today is a pretty good deal for the residents of St. Lucie County.
Well, Chairman, Commissioner Zadowski, they may very well be getting a great deal. All we're asking for at this point is to confirm that they're getting a good deal. When you mentioned the reduction in the fuel costs as well as the large capital improvement that Waste Pro has made, then the question becomes is if their rate is lower, the fuel rate is lower, and there's a huge capital investment, then where are the costs being made up? But those are all questions that can certainly be addressed through a number crunching, time matter with staff. We just, obviously, we're looking forward to just having some communication with staff.
Mr. Chairman, my final question, and Mr. Roberts, maybe you need to state the date, but it was several years ago, 2 years ago, I believe, that the bid had come out, and your client didn't bid on it, and nor did any of the other folks in the room. Mr. Roberts, can you support that statement?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Zadowski, Waste Management and Republic did not bid. SWS did. They were the high bidder, I believe, at that time, but as you stated, Republic and Waste Management did not submit.
So the bid process did occur, and your client didn't bid originally, so it's kind of disingenuous.
Well, Chairman, Commissioner Zadowski, every time something is opened up is a different circumstance, and as voiced earlier, every county is different. So not only are the geographic locations different, not only the cities and municipalities within those geographic locations different, but also time is different. Things change over time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you for your time.
Morning.
Good morning, Mr.
Actually,
Chair.
good afternoon now, we get to say that.
You're correct.
My class.
My name is Daniel Kreiser from East Coast Recycling. Our facility is located here in St. Lucie County at 4880 Glades Cutoff Road, Fort Pierce, Florida, 34981. I have a couple of simple questions for the staff, Mr. Roberts. Basically, what some of your proposals are is that you're going to collect $5.50 per cubic yard. Is that correct?
Mr. Kreiser, no. The county doesn't collect anything. The exclusive hauler has an agreement with commercial establishments, and they can charge no more than $5.50 a cubic yard for collection and disposal.
Okay, so who are they charging?
Customer.
Okay. And then you also mentioned that there's a 100-ton guarantee. Is that correct?
On single stream deliveries, correct.
Okay, and then you also mentioned that if they were not to produce 1 ton, that would be a revenue stream to the county landfill of $6,300. Is that correct?
That's correct, through the payment bond. We would call in the bond.
So basically, they would be that's in essence, you guys are charging $63 a ton for single stream.
Our proposal is to charge $55 per ton for processing. If they want baling and handling, then it's another $8.
Okay. What exactly is happening with the county's single or double stream right now?
The hauler gets to take it wherever they choose.
Okay, so you are not privy to where it goes?
I believe right now they take part of it to SP Recycling and part of it comes to the St. Lucie County Baling and Recycling Facility.
And do you know at what cost?
Are you asking at what cost Waste Pro pays?
Yeah, I guess.
For the processing?
Yes.
I believe they're paying, you have to confirm it with Mr. Mackey, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $80 a ton.
So they're being charged $80
And
a ton.
Danny, if you don't mind, for the most part, I mean, we'd rather sort of keep things here at this point. I mean, it's really one that, I mean, staff, you guys are always able to get together and work through things with staff, but this isn't a hearing that we're conducting, so
I understand.
this is your general public comment portion, so I just want to try and keep things.
Well, I do apologize. I guess the point that I'm trying to make is basically single stream, which is somewhat considered a recovered material, it's not considered a solid waste, will be collected here at St. Lucie County and disposed of at the landfill, not disposed, processed, I apologize, at a cost to the hauler of $63 per ton. Currently, the solid waste disposal rates are $41 a ton, and yard waste is charged at $26 per ton. C&D is charged at $29. I'm under the presumption that you guys are proposing dropping some of those disposal rates. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mr. Chairman, yes.
Okay. So if you have a product that's single stream, which is a recovered material, a lot of the work of the processing of separating that material from the class 1 stream of garbage has been already done for you, and you're going to charge $63 per ton, I'm sure there's other facilities that would probably be a lot less than $63 per ton. That's my point. And as everybody else has mentioned here, maybe you guys should put this out for an RFP, as opposed to automatically assuming that I don't know if you guys are doing this for a revenue stream for the landfill, but $63 per ton to charge for a single stream product seems pretty substantial. I personally am in the process of handling single stream, and I get paid to send single stream material in the amount of $15 per ton. So I'm getting paid for it, not being charged for it. So it just seems a little odd. So maybe you guys should reconsider this or put it out for RFP. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, Dennis Cork, law firm D. Mead, Minton & Zweimer on behalf of Waste Management. I just want to go back to the things that we talked about with each of you yesterday afternoon. We've drifted out into talking about the hauling contract. All we talked about with all of you yesterday was the timing of the renewal, because we read between the lines as what was there, that there was going to be a processing facility constructed at the landfill. We're right. Mr. Roberts has talked about that today and talked about the investment, which none of us knew about, and has justified it with the $8 processing fee and with the minimum of 100 tons a day. And that's what we talked to each of you about yesterday, and we want to come back to that and say again, just like Mr. Kreiser just said, if you're talking about the $8, we're not talking about eliminating the $55. We're not talking about eliminating a receiving fee at the landfill for single-stream recycling. And we weren't talking about the hauling contract. We're talking about the timing of the renewal if it was tied in with the single-stream and the processing and so forth. We're talking about the $8 a ton, and we're saying that the $8 a ton, no matter how fast you could recover your investment, may be exceeded with no investment. That's the very narrow point we tried to hammer home yesterday, and I wanted to make sure that we came back to that. We're saying that all things being equal, all the things before you, we're really down to talking about the tipping fee charges and letting the contracts for selling baled materials, if there's any sort of minimum to those, because we believe that going out to the market, Waste Management being a leader in that market, but you have number 2 and others in that market here too, we're saying that, just like we said over and over again yesterday, taking that single stream and dumping it into a truck at your own facility and selling it into the market may be at least as lucrative as being paid to process it with no investment. And that's the point that we wanted to bring home to you when we were talking to all of you yesterday. We're talking about the value of the single stream recyclables at the end. And when we talk about hauling contracts and so on, all we talked about was doing this all at the same time because they were interconnected. But the value that we're talking about is a no investment alternative that may yield the county's enterprise fund more, or at least the same, as actually making an investment and then capturing that return. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kirk, I think that what I'm seeing, and you're right, we did pull a lot of these items off consent as requested by some of the folks here. I think that while you're pointing at one small part of the picture, I think what we're seeing here is a much larger picture in which we're able to reduce the cost to St. Lucie County, but also create the revenue stream that helps us to process the product, but also to help the landfill. But ultimately, the idea here is to help the ratepayer. And one of the items is reducing the tipping fee for C&D by $10 a ton. And again, that was the investment that was made before at $4.2 million. But we recovered that in a very short time, and now we're able to reduce that to the customer going forward. And I think we're seeing the same thing with the presentation of all of these items, giving the benefit back to St. Lucie County ratepayers.
I'll go back to what I just said. Recapturing an investment is all well and good, but if you exceed the recapture from day one, why make the investment? And we believe that when you sit down and analyze those, that may be the option. So, I mean, I can't argue with anything you're saying about the C&D. You built a C&D processing facility and you recaptured it. But the market out there wants the single stream. Mr. Kaiser talked about the recovery rate. You're getting paid $8, and then you're selling something out into the market, and we're saying that there may not be added value in processing it first.
Well, the concern for me is that if we make the investment today, we'll always know what our costs are going forward. If an agreement comes with your client, assuredly, in the future comes a higher bid process and lower return. And I think the investment today is worth the investment for certainty for our landfill.
And you are in the business of selling recycled materials into the marketplace, and you are competing against global intercontinental companies in that marketplace. You are entering into a marketplace to sell processed goods against very, very large competitors with worldwide market capabilities. And without processing it, you always have the ability to, if processing is the right thing to do, you always have the ability to process it yourself. But absent processing, you're selling those into a market to bidders. And that need not be. There may be some value to long-term contracts to purchase the single-stream recyclable materials from the county. It may be to the county's best interest to be in the market of selling those tons on a shorter term. But in the end, you've not made any commitment. You have not made any investment, and you are selling the materials out into the market with absolutely no risk. That's the point we're trying to make. And that's, I think, the point that Waste Management's competitors made, too. We talked about, there's a lot of distraction about the hauling contract. That's not what we came really to talk about. We talked about the timing of the extension if it was tied in with the processing, building a processing facility. But we continue to say that if the county sits down and looks at the pricing of selling the unprocessed recycling stream, that net revenue may exceed what you're getting for processing and selling in the end.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kirk. Any other comments before the board? Seeing no movement, we'll return to the board. Mr. Roberts, any final comments that you have based upon what you've heard this morning?
Staff recommends approval of all the items.
Turn to the board. How would the board like to deal with the three items that are before us at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I think I have listed the items that were pulled: B6, B7, B8, B9, G3, and G4.
6 we already took action on. We're dealing with 7, 8, 9. We didn't get into the discussion of G3.
Well, I think they were all collectively a part of the whole discussion, but I would move approval of B7, B8, and B9, the staff recommendation.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion at this point? Comment that I want to make is, Mr. Roberts, I want to make sure I'm clear. We're not approving the development of a single-stream recycling facility at this point.
Mr. Chairman, that was done in December. The board authorized the permitting and design of the facility, and 50% of that is done, 80% of the design is completed.
Right, to separate those issues, because I saw some commingling of that discussion this morning.
Correct.
At this point, based upon things that I'm seeing with the residential side alone, I know I've been very pleased with the development of the residential side and realizing the rate reductions that have occurred in that area. But that's good. Any other comments from the commissioners at this point?
Mr. Chairman, just a real quick comment. I think probably be more appropriate here than on the next group. There was some discussion of the commercial services, and just for purposes of information purely, speaking to Mr. Roberts yesterday, I understand 80% of those customers did see a decrease in their bills under the new system.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Lewis, that would be correct. From all of the numbers that I had, I believe it was actually 81% saw a reduction.
Oh, 81, sorry. Got that figure wrong. But there was a large, I'm losing my voice here and I don't know why, there was a large benefit for the ratepayer in general.
Any discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Roberts, let's quickly move through items G3, 4.
I believe G3 is the lowering of the rate for construction and demolition debris or Class 3 waste from $29 to $19 per ton.
G4.
That's G4.
That's G4.
That's G4.
G3 is awarding the bids for baled aluminum, baled mixed paper, baled bimetal.
And cardboard.
And cardboard.
That's correct. We have been baling fiber products, which is cardboard and paper, for 11 years and selling it, so that would be awarding that, as well as the bimetal cans that we would recover from the waste stream and aluminum cans that we would recover from the waste stream, to the high bidder on each item.
Any questions or comments on this item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Realizing we did open this up for comments, was there any additional comment that was to be provided by the audience on this item?
G3. Sorry.
Okay, with that, we'll turn to the board. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay. That concludes...
G4, sir.
I'm sorry?
G4, reduction of oil.
I thought you were doing both those together. That was what I just heard, was a motion for G3 and G4.
A motion was already made for G4 before G3, I heard.
Yeah.
Okay. So we had an interesting motion. What was the motion?
Well, especially when you opened up for public comment, I'm sitting here going, I need to pull my motion before you start getting public comment. I will make a motion to accept or to move staff recommendation on V1, G3, and 4.
Second.
That was the motion I thought we just approved, but that was
Clarifying, sir.
clarifying. Perfect. Any discussion on G3 and G4? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. That brings us to the end of our regular agenda. There are a few announcements that we have. One of those, I saw an email that came through that was mentioning that perhaps this meeting had been changed. Just as a point of reference, we normally always have a morning meeting, which is this regularly scheduled day, and then we always have one night meeting a month. But this meeting was not set to be an evening meeting. It got changed to become a morning meeting. This has always been a morning meeting. So I'm not sure how there was some confusion on that item. Other items, obviously, we have the fair coming up this weekend, and New York Met spring training begins this Saturday at 1:30 against the Washington Nationals. Any other items that need to be brought forward as an announcement?
Mr. Chairman, just as a reminder, because I know this meeting ran much longer, if each of you will please send some dates to Ms. Outlaw, that would be appreciated.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Outlaw, do you have anything for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to announce for the record the new Assistant County Administrator, Mr. Robert Benkowski, who comes to us by way of Oviedo and from near Ormond Beach and has had experience at 3 other counties, and he has now joined the best of the counties.
You're here.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard. Double the workload will be coming out of that office now.
For sure.
There you go.
Would you like to make a comment real quick?
Might as well take your seat.
You need to be on a mic.
Rule 1.
Yeah.
No, my only comment is to thank all of you and to thank the directors and their staff for the welcome that they've given me. They've been very gracious, and the staff is clearly very passionate and dedicated about their work. and I look forward to working with all of you.
Great, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
aboard.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned.